Hello, welcome back to Beyond Earth Stories. I'm glad you're here. If you like these calm journeys through deep time, please tap like and subscribe so we can keep exploring together. Now settle in, breathe slowly, and let me take you with me to a world of ice and whispering wind. I close my eyes and step back. The present blurs. The hum of traffic and the glow of screens fade into a different quiet. There is a wide, cold sky, pale and thin, and a land that stretches away in a flat silver hush. The air bites at my cheeks. Every breath feels small and bright. Ahead, a glacier fills the horizon, not a neat curve, but a living thing. A slow, patient mass of ice that moves, creaks, and remembers. It is older than any road, older than any city. It presses down on the world and carries it forward. There is a sound to this place, if you listen closely. A long, low groan when the ice shifts, a sharp snap when a slab breaks free, a distant rumble like thunder over a landscape that has learned to speak in winter. Snow drifts in ribbons across the plains piled into waves by the wind. Here and there, dark stones poke from white. They are the bodies of mountains ground down and smoothed by the glacier's slow hand. The land is marked not by the convenience of humans, but by the raw work of cold. Valleys have been carved where once valleys were not. Lakes sleep in basins gouged out by passing ice. The map of the world has been rewritten by weight and patience. If I walk closer, the air tastes of metal and dust. Tiny particles ride the wind ground from rock and carried far from their source. The sun is weak, a distant lamp. In this light, colors flatten, everything becomes a study in whites, grays, and the faint bronze of exposed earth. Yet life is there. It has its own quiet business. Lichens cling to stone. They are small armies, patient and slow. Grasses huddle in sheltered hollows, their blades short but tough, their seeds waiting. The steppe unfurls not a soft green pasture, but a coarse frost-gnarled expanse where only the hardy can find sustenance. Across that expanse, I imagine the heaving form of a herd. Mammoths move like small mournful mountains. Their shaggy coats collect the white that falls from the sky. Their breath fogs and fades. When they move, the ground remembers. Their tusks trace arcs in the air and in the snow, shaping the world by simple acts of eating and walking. Around them, smaller creatures go about their days. Herds of bison grow into living tides. Elk move with a restless, cautious rhythm. Predators follow patterns as old as hunger. Saber-toothed cats wait in the deep of a drifted hollow. Wolves shadow the edges of a herd, testing and probing for anything weaker. Watching them, I feel the scale of existence here. Nothing rushes. Lives are measured in weather fronts and the slow finding of food. A season of scarcity is not a difficulty to be shrugged off. It is the grammar of life. Creatures pace themselves accordingly. Thick fur layers of fat, compact bodies. These are the solutions written by survival. Some animals shorten their lives into fierce bursts of summer breeding and then wait out the long nights. Others move migrating along corridors of grass and ice, following the memory of food across thousands of miles. And humans are present here as well, though not as rulers. I step quietly into a camp that a small band has made behind a windbreak of stones. There are the faint ruins of a fire-blackened rock circled in a careful pattern. Fur garments hang from racks, drying and airing in a bitter breeze. Tools, blades of sharpened stone handles, lashed with sinew, are set with a kind of reverence near the fire. The people move with practiced calm. Each gesture is intentional, a careful repair to a boot, a lesson to a child on how to bind a spear, the silent passing of a share of meat to an elder. Their nights are long and their concerns immediate. They watch the sky for changes in wind and weather, listen for the sound of ice shifting on a distant ridge. They learn the patterns of animals, where mammoths cross a shallow river, where caribou feed on a certain patch of lichen. They carry knowledge like a map in their heads, where to find sheltered springs in a blizzard, which stones make the sharpest flakes, which smoke will keep the flies away when the brief golden warmth comes. There is an intimacy to it, a knowing that is not written in books, but in hands and the cadence of speech. Around the fire they pass that knowledge along. The flames carve soft light and softer shadows on faces that are mapped by the sharp luminous stress of living in cold. Fire is their second sun. In the open dark, it is impossible to overstate how much warmth and light matter. A controlled flame transforms the night. It turns raw meat into food that is easier to digest and safer to eat. It softens hides and hardens wooden points. It becomes a place to keep predators at bay, a small miracle of borrowed warmth. It is also a focus for story. The walls of caves and rock shelters are the first screens lit by this wavering glow. Hands press into pigment, leaving fossils of gesture, and images of animals appear on stone, not merely records, but stories and prayers, and perhaps a way of making the world less threatening. There are cave paintings near the river ochre and charcoal rendered in the slow care of many nights. A bison's flank curves with a kind of muscular empathy. A long tusk swoops in a bold line. These images are not attempts at decoration, not casual doodles. They are compacted focus. They are intention made visible. They are offerings and reckonings, and a way of remembering where the food can be found when the blizzards come. An elder traces a familiar shape, and in doing so passes the image forward to someone who will not see the herd that season. The art is in a sense a contract with the future. Remember this, and you may survive. There is also ingenuity in the mundane. Hide is more than clothing. It is shelter bedding, a waterproof membrane to keep out cold winds. Bone and antler are worked into needles, hooks, and spear points. Stone is flaked into forms that fit hands like second skins. These crafts are small technologies born of necessity and refined by patience. I sit in thought with a person shaping a flake, feeling the rhythm of striking a core, hearing the faint brittle ping as the chip falls away. The hand hones a skill that will last generations. The skill is a kind of memory that lives in muscle as much as in mind. The ice shapes waterways in ways that are subtle and vast. Glaciers dam rivers, carving lakes that will flood when the ice melts. Massive melt events, sudden ruptures known as jökullaups, send walls of water roaring across lowlands, reshaping riverbeds, uprooting trees, depositing rich soils far from their origin. These floods change human habitability. Where there was once passable plain, there may be a newly scoured gorge. A village built beside a serene lake may find itself standing on an empty basin months later. Life here is a negotiation with change. Humans learn flexibility to build camps that can be abandoned to read the landscape and move with it. On cold nights, sound behaves differently. The air is thin and carries the deepest, oldest sounds a long way. A stamp of hoof or the groan of ice can be heard 100 miles in clear conditions. It makes the place feel small and huge at once. I listen to a distant tremor, whether animal or ice is uncertain, and I imagine that sound traveling, telling news to anyone, patient enough to hear a herd is crossing a berg, calves, a storm is coming. Sound becomes a map not only of the immediate world, but of what lies just over the next ridge. The sky is a companion here. Auroras make long green curtains that sway with a slow elegance reflected in the silvered faces of streams. At times, the stars feel unnaturally close. Their cold light seems to prick the skin. The moon thickens the shadows and reveals the textures in the snow. Ripples from wind, tiny ridges left by the legs of insects, the micro-erosion of crystals. The night is both beautiful and exacting, a kind of austere theater for life. If I stand on a ridge at dawn, the entire plain yawns, and the breath of animals vaporizes in slow columns. There is a fragile beauty in the way the world wakes here. The first light cracks the skin of the earth loose. Shadows shrink, and the colors deepen. The dull bronze of earth becomes a stark clarity. Mammoths appear as dark blots emerging from a fold in the land like islands. They move methodically, heading toward the thin grasses, where food can be scraped away from the frozen topsoil. The scene is calm, almost sacred in its ordinariness. There is no hurry here. Speed would be danger. Humans learn to use that lack of hurry to their advantage. They study migration routes over generations, placing themselves in the right place at the right time. They set traps along the paths the animals have used for centuries. A coordinated group can drive game toward a narrow pass where a concealed few deliver the decisive strike. It is not always successful. There is skill and chance wrapped together. But when it works, the reward is large enough to carry the group through a season of scarcity. That same slow intelligence appears in how they read weather. Snowfall, wind direction, the way a particular slope holds frost, all these are signals. A slight change in the slope of a river, a new formation of ridged ice, can portend a longer cold snap. Elders speak softly of signs, and omit nothing: the color of last night's fire smoke, the behavior of birds at dusk. This intimate knowledge is what keeps bands alive. Sometimes the cold does break. There are intervals brief, sweet as a promise when the climate relaxes. Trees advance, grasses thicken. Insects become briefly prolific. Rivers lap at coasts they had not touched for millennia. People take these interludes as chances to expand, to craft more elaborate shelters, to trade with groups they might otherwise avoid. It is during these windows that repair happens, and memory is given room to grow. Ornaments are polished. More paint added to cave walls, songs are lengthened. But change can also be abrupt. A melt accelerates, seas rise, and land bridges vanish. A band that once crossed a now submerged plain may find itself stranded on an island where the animal herds do not come. Over generations, these separations create differences in language, technology, and culture. It is a slow process, but relentless. Islands and continents become crucibles where variations of human life evolve distinct ways of thinking and living. What I find quietly astonishing is how much of modern landscape and culture is a palimpsest of these movements. River valleys that today hold cities were once glacial outwash plains. Their soil owes its fertility to floods and grinding ice. Many of the stones placed in ceremonial settings in later ages may have been foreground features left by the glacier's retreat. Our food webs, our migration corridors, even the thickness of the soil under our feet, all are echoes. The better we listen, the more we realize that the present is stitched to the past by patterns that are slow, patient, and monumental. There are moments here that feel like thresholds. I imagine a child stepping for the first time into a shallow river warmed by the sun. For a moment, her small hands curl in delight as she feels water not yet deadened by frost. She plunges for a stick and is laughing, the kind of small, bright sound that tells you this life has not resigned itself to hardship. Around her, adults mend clothing and tell of where the herds have been seen. The child's laughter seems almost a promise that life will continue carrying memory forward. And there are other moments that read like elegies. I picture the last days of a mammoth, an old bull separated from the herd, tusks worn like the ridges of an old used tool. His breath comes less frequently, and still he moves with a dignity that knows no hurry. A young hunter looks on, perhaps with respect, perhaps with sorrow, and in his face is the quiet understanding that the world changes, and that being present when it does is in its own way a kind of witness. I will not pretend the Ice Age was only hardship or only beauty. It was both in equal measure. There was the constant strain of survival, the daily negotiation with cold wind and the scarcity of food. There was the danger of being trapped by storms, the chance of illness without the medicine we know, the ever-present risk that a single miscalculation could mean the end of a group's season. Yet there was also a richness, a way of living deeply anchored in the minutiae of place. People there lived with the land in a direct, unmediated way that taught them the grammar of earth and weather. The stories that emerge from this frozen fabric are small and human. They are about the making and mending of tools, the birth of crafts, the discovery of new methods to preserve meat and fat, and the way songs become longer and more intricate as people trade and integrate ideas. They are about the slow processes of cultural memory, who taught whom to flake a certain kind of stone. What stories recall the best place to find fish in a season of late thaw, which songs invoke the safety of the herd. Culture becomes a tool as essential as a spear or a fur. It holds knowledge in forms that can be carried across miles and down generations. What binds all this together is a sense of continuity. The Ice Age is not merely an external spectacle to observe from a historical distance. It is a set of practices and relationships that sustained life through extremity. The world that now seems temperate and settled was once a place that required constant attention. The people who lived through it were not merely survivors, they were artists of adaptation. They learned to read ice and sky and to translate the land into practices that could be passed on. As our imagined walk through this frozen world draws to a slow close, I linger on one last image, a small group gathered on a ridge as the sun drops toward the rim. They share a thin meal, their faces lit pale by the last light. Someone begins a song, a low, steady voice that threads through the hush. Others join, and for a little while the cold is forgotten, replaced by a warmth that is human in origin. The song is a kind of map, an oral archive that speaks of where to find water, where to find hearths, how to patch a garment, the names of elders, the animals to watch for, and the stories that give them courage. The Ice Age has left its marks on the land and on us. We are in small and abiding ways its descendants. The rhythms of endurance it required have threaded through our genes and our cultures. When I open my eyes back in the present, the details of the frozen world, the creak of ice, the slow tilt of a mammoth's head, the deep warmth of a cave fire, stay with me. They whisper that our current comforts are built on long practices of attention and care. If you enjoyed this slow walk into ice and memory, stay with me. There is more to come. The science that explains what moved the great sheets of ice, the stories of places that are now underwater, and the particular ways humans adapted in different corners of the world. For now, rest with the image of that ridge and the human voices carried on cold air. Let that warmth linger as you drift. I feel the cold world stretching in every direction, and I realize that this landscape is not as still as it seems. The vast plains, the glaciers towering like mountains, the frozen rivers, they are part of a rhythm older than any story I could tell. The earth itself breathes in cycles slow and immense, a pulse written not in seconds or minutes, but in tens of thousands of years. The ice advances, then retreats, then advances again, as if the planet is inhaling and exhaling with the stars. When I look up at the pale sky, I imagine the orbit of the Earth around the Sun, a path that seems simple but is never truly steady. The Earth leans, wobbles, shifts in patterns so subtle that no single lifetime could ever notice them. Yet together, they shape entire ages. Scientists in my time will give these movements names: eccentricity, obliquity, precession. But here in this ancient world, I feel them not as abstract numbers, but as a quiet insistence in the air itself. Summers sometimes bite harder, winters sometimes last longer, and with those small differences, The glaciers either grow or fade. I kneel and scoop a handful of snow. It looks the same as the snow I know today, but its story is different. Each flake carries the memory of where the earth is in its long dance with the sun. If the tilt is deep, the summers melt more of it away. If the tilt relaxes, the snow lingers and packs year after year until it becomes ice. Layer by layer, mountain by mountain, the world builds these frozen fortresses that spread like kingdoms. And when the tilt shifts again, the sun melts them back and the water rushes to the sea. Walking across the land, I see the evidence everywhere. Valleys carved into sharp U-shapes, boulders stranded far from their origins, soil ground into fine dust that winds carry across continents. The glaciers are sculptors, and the earth is their patient canvas. I imagine following a river southward, its waters swollen with the melt of an entire mountain of ice. It cuts a channel deep into the land, roaring with a force that seems eternal. But I know even this river is temporary. When the ice grows again, it will be buried, frozen, erased. The seas too change with each breath of the earth. In times of deep ice, the oceans shrink, their waters locked away in frozen sheets. Shorelines stretch outward, revealing wide plains that will one day lie beneath waves. I walk across one of these exposed lands, feeling the wind sweep unhindered for miles. It is dry and cold, a place where grasses cling close to the soil, but it is land solid and broad. Mammoths graze here, unaware that their feeding grounds are borrowed from the sea. Human footprints cross it, too faint but determined, leading families and herds across continents that in my world are separated by oceans. These are the bridges of the Ice Age, the secret corridors that allow life to spread only to vanish when the seas return. Sometimes the changes come gently, almost unnoticed, a slow shifting that only generations can perceive. A glacier creeps forward a few meters. Each year, a river bends slightly, a season grows colder by a breath. But other times the changes roar. A dam of ice breaks, and a lake the size of a sea empties in days, a wall of water tearing through valleys, sweeping forests away. I can almost hear it, a rumble that becomes a roar louder than thunder, shaking the ground itself. For those who live nearby, it must feel like the end of the world. Camps are destroyed, hunting grounds vanish, yet when the waters settle, they leave behind new lakes, new soils, new possibilities. I watch people standing at the edge of such a floodplain after the waters have gone. They are quiet, looking across the new landscape, trying to understand what has changed. They do not have words for orbital cycles or melting events, but they know what matters. The land is different. The paths of animals will change, and they must learn the new map. They are patient. They do not expect the world to stay still. Their knowledge is not written in books, but in stories told at night. Stories that say, when the river moves, follow it. When the ice grows, move south. When the animals turn, turn with them. I think about how small we are against these forces. The glaciers do not care for human lives. They move at their own pace, grinding mountains, swallowing forests, reshaping rivers. And yet, within this immensity, humans survive. They learn to build camps that can be abandoned, tools that can be remade, fires that can be rekindled anywhere there is wood or bone to burn. They learn to weave flexibility into their very way of being, because nothing is permanent in a world ruled by ice. At night, beneath a sky filled with stars, I sit by the fire of one such band. The flames crackle, the air smells of smoke and fat, and the world beyond the glow is endless and cold. An elder speaks softly, telling of winters long ago, of animals that once came here, but no longer do. His words are not myths, but memory carried across decades passed from one voice to another, so that the young will know what to expect when the ice returns. The children listen, their eyes wide, their faces lit orange by the fire. They do not think of orbital tilts or eccentricities, but they understand the pattern the world breathes, and you must breathe with it. I look at the glacier again and see not just ice, but time itself flowing, advancing, retreating. Each breath of the earth lasts longer than civilizations, yet it is as natural as the rising and setting of the sun. And I wonder if the planet can change so completely, so slowly. What does that mean for us? We are born into one moment of warmth, one interglacial, but beneath our feet lies the memory of 1,000 winters. The earth remembers, even if we forget. I keep walking, and the sound of my footsteps crunching against frost feels like the ticking of a clock that measures in centuries. The sky has a clarity here that I rarely see in my own time. The stars shimmer with a cold steadiness, and the moon casts shadows that stretch across the snow, as though it were painting with silver. In this silence I begin to sense the rhythm of the world beneath me, the slow oscillation of climates, the drawn-out breath of the earth that carries glaciers forward and then lets them fall back. It amazes me how such tiny motions can lead to such overwhelming changes. A shift in the Earth's tilt by a few degrees, a slight wobble in its axis, a stretch in the orbit, it feels trivial, almost imperceptible. But given enough time, those subtle nudges pull oceans from their shores, build mountains of ice, and drown valleys in meltwater. I imagine the Earth as a vast instrument, strings tuned to the sun, every vibration cascading into climates, seasons, and lives. I walk across what feels like an endless steppe. The land is stark treeless, open to every wind. The grasses grow tough and low, clinging close to the soil. A herd of reindeer passes in the distance, moving in single file, their antlers like dark lightning against the pale horizon. Behind them, a pack of wolves follows with patience. They do not rush. They have learned, just as humans have, that life here is measured in persistence, not speed. As the wind brushes my face, I recall that this land, this plain that seems eternal, is borrowed time. The sea waits beyond the horizon, held back by ice. One day, when the glaciers melt, it will rise again, and all this space will vanish under waves. The reindeer's paths will disappear. The wolves will lose their trails, and humans who once crossed here will be cut off their descendants, never knowing that such a bridge existed. I try to imagine what it would feel like to live in such a world, knowing that the ground beneath you is not permanent, that even the continents themselves shift with the breath of ice. And yet, for those who walked here, it was simply life. Hunters followed the herds, reading the land as though it were a living book. They would notice the way snow drifted against a ridge, the faint trail of hooves, the pattern of birds circling above. To them, these were signs, messages that revealed where food could be found or where danger might lurk. They were not astronomers charting orbital cycles, but they understood the world through attention, patience, and memory. I imagine sitting with them by a fire on this open plain. The flames crackle, and the air glows orange against the night. Children curl close to their parents, wrapped in furs. A story is told of a river that once ran, where now there is only ice, of an animal that once roamed, but is now gone, of a great flood that swept the land. These stories are not entertainment, but survival. They are the library of the Ice Age, a record of changes too large to witness in a single life, but vital to remember across generations. The more I listen, the more I realize that humans have always been archivists of change. The Ice Age demanded it. To survive here meant remembering not only where the herds moved, but how the world itself shifted. The memory of a great flood might save a future generation when the ice dam breaks again. The tale of a long winter might prepare a family for scarcity. Knowledge was not written on stone tablets or in books, but carried in voices, in rhythm, in firelight. It was fragile, yet strong enough to cross millennia. I walk further, and the air sharpens. Ahead, I see a vast sheet of ice smooth as glass beneath the moonlight. I place my hand upon it, and I can feel it moving, though imperceptibly flowing like a river frozen in time. Within its depths are bubbles, tiny spheres of ancient air trapped thousands of years ago. If I could release them, I might breathe the same air inhaled by mammoths, by people who painted on cave walls, by wolves long gone. The ice is not only frozen water, it is frozen memory, an archive of skies, storms, and seasons. It occurs to me that the glaciers themselves are storytellers. They carve valleys, leave behind moraines, scatter boulders hundreds of miles from their birthplace. They inscribe the land with their journeys, just as humans inscribe stories on stone. Long after the glaciers retreat, their signatures remain, and in those signatures lie the history of the planet's breath. When I walk through a U-shaped valley in my own time, I am walking through a memory of ice. The floods are among the most violent parts of this rhythm. I imagine standing on the shore of a great glacial lake, its waters calm but heavy with potential. The dam of ice that holds it groans, cracks, spreading silently through its body. And then, in an instant, it gives way. The water roars forward, tearing forests from their roots, grinding soil into dust, scouring the land with a force nothing can resist. Entire valleys vanish. When the flood passes, it leaves behind fertile plains, new lakes, and a silence that feels almost sacred. For the humans who witness it, it must be both terror and awe, the destruction of a home, the gift of new land. Animals, too, adapt to these rhythms. Herds shift their routes when the rivers change. Predators follow with tireless persistence, and humans trail both. The cycle is relentless, but not without generosity. Each retreat of the ice leaves behind new ground rich with minerals, watered by melt, ready to grow grasses that will feed herds for generations. Life learns to dance with the rhythm, to bend with it, rather than resist. At night, when the fire burns low, I think about how different my own time feels. We live as though the world is stable, as though rivers and coastlines will remain as they are forever. But the Ice Age reminds me that nothing is permanent. The seas rise and fall, the ice comes and goes, the land itself is written and rewritten. Even the air carries the memory of cycles long past. As I drift into this thought, the sound of the wind seems almost like breath. The earth inhales and the ice spreads. The earth exhales and the seas rise. The pulse is slow, steady, endless. It is the rhythm of change itself, the quiet certainty that nothing is fixed, that all things move, shift, and transform. And within that rhythm, life endures not by controlling the world, but by learning to move with it. I wake to the sound of cracking ice, not sudden but steady, as if the world itself were stretching. The glacier nearby shifts under its own weight, releasing groans that travel across the valley like the voice of something ancient. The air carries the scent of cold stone and frozen water, sharp enough to sting the nose. I stand still listening. This is not noise, it is language. The ice is speaking in its slow, deliberate tongue, telling of its movement, its weight, its steady march across the land. I imagine generations of people who must have heard the same sounds. For them, it was not just background, it was a warning, or perhaps a reassurance. They would know whether the groan meant a simple settling or the beginning of a fracture that could unleash a flood. Their ears were tuned to the earth's voice in ways I can only guess at now. I feel almost envious of their intimacy with the land, their ability to translate whispers of snow and cracks of ice into meaning. The sky shifts as the day brightens. Clouds move quickly, stretched into long bands by the wind. Light reflects from the ice in blinding brilliance, forcing me to squint. The world feels both immense and stripped bare, as if every unnecessary detail has been erased, leaving only what is essential: the cold, the land, the sky, and the pulse beneath it all. I start walking again, following a faint trail that winds along the glacier's edge. My footsteps crunch softly, but the silence is so deep that even this small sound feels intrusive. I find myself wondering about memory, not only the memory of people, but the memory of the planet. Every layer of ice is a page in a book, written slowly, deliberately, without haste. Dust trapped in the layers tells of deserts that once spread wider. Pollen grains reveal where forests once grew. Tiny bubbles of air carry the breath of ancient skies, filled with the exhalations of creatures long gone. If I could cut down through the glacier, I would not just be holding ice, I would be holding time. I would touch winters that ended tens of thousands of years ago, summers that warmed forests where now only tundra remains. And I think about the way humans carry memory. We do not freeze it in layers of snow. We wrap it in story. A tale of a great hunt, a myth about the rising sea, a warning about a winter that never ended. All of these are our way of layering knowledge, passing it forward. The glacier remembers in silence. We remember in words. Both methods endure, though one is written in ice and the other in firelight. The animals remind me too of this rhythm. I watch a herd of bison gathered on a windswept slope. They face the storm as one, their heavy coats catching snow, their hooves planted deep. The storm will pass, as storms always do, and they will move on, leaving faint tracks that the wind will erase. Nearby, a small group of humans waits as well, crouched behind a ridge spears in hand. They watch the herd patient, conserving their energy until the moment is right. Both predator and prey are bound to the same rhythm, to the same cycles of scarcity and abundance. Neither resists the breath of the earth. Both move with it. There is a humility in that way of living. No one here assumes that the world is theirs to control. The glaciers, the floods, the long winters, these are not obstacles to conquer, but realities to adapt to. When the ice advances, you move south. When the seas rise, you find higher ground. When the herds change their path, you follow. There is no shame in it, only wisdom. To live is to bend with the rhythm, to weave your life into the larger pattern, rather than tear against it. I continue my walk and find a place where the glacier has pulled back, leaving behind a wide plain scattered with rocks and streams. The land feels young, raw, newly revealed. The soil is dark and rich, ground down from mountains and spread by meltwater. Grasses have already begun to take root, and with them will come animals, and with the animals, humans. Each retreat of the ice leaves behind a gift, even if it arrives in the shadow of destruction. The earth does not simply take, it also renews. As the day fades into twilight, the horizon glows with a strange light, a green shimmer that ripples across the sky. The aurora dances above the ice curtains of light, swaying in silence. I stand transfixed, watching the sky itself breathe. It feels as though the heavens mirror the earth's pulse light, moving where before there was only dark. For the people of the Ice Age, this must have been a sacred sight, a reminder that even in the coldest nights, beauty could break through. Perhaps they saw it as a message, a promise that life continued above, even when the ground seemed barren below. When I finally sit down near the fire once more, I feel the rhythm of the day settle into me. The crackling of flames, the sigh of wind, the steady groan of distant ice all blend into one quiet song. I realize that the true story of this age is not just the ice itself, but the way everything, stone, water, animal, human, moves with it. The glaciers breathe and we breathe with them. The seas rise and we rise with them. The world shifts and we shift too. I close my eyes, letting the fire's warmth soak into me. The night deepens and the stars burn steady overhead. I feel small, but not fragile. I feel like one note in a long, slow song, a song that has been playing since before I was born and will continue long after I am gone. The Ice Age is not merely history, it is rhythm, patience, endurance. It is the reminder that change is not an interruption, but the nature of things. The earth breathes, and so do we. And as I drift toward sleep, I hear it once more, the slow inhale of glaciers, the quiet exhale of seas, the endless steady pulse of a living world. The first sound is water, not the quiet trickle of a stream, but the deep, insistent voice of ice loosening its grip on the land. I stand at the edge of a glacier that only seasons ago seemed immovable, eternal. Now, rivulets run across its surface, weaving bright threads through the blue-white body of ice. Drops fall steadily, a rhythm that grows into streams, then into rivers. It is as though the glacier is exhaling, giving up its frozen breath to the world. The air itself feels different. It carries more warmth, a softness that was absent before. The winds no longer bite as fiercely. They brush my face instead, cool, but not punishing. Grass finds new courage, sending up green blades where once only frost lay. I walk slowly across this shifting land, each step reminding me that I am not only moving through space, but also through time. Time that reshapes the world in ways both sudden and subtle. As I walk, I hear cracks echo like distant drums. Large slabs of ice calve from the glacier's edge, tumbling into meltwater pools with a sound that shakes the ground. Waves ripple outward, colliding against the walls of ice still standing. In these moments, I see the fragility of what once seemed indestructible. The glacier, vast and ancient, is breaking apart piece by piece. The water carries its story away down into valleys, into rivers that surge and roar with new strength. The rivers swell, carrying silt and stone, carving new paths through the plains. Lakes form in hollows, bright mirrors reflecting skies heavy with cloud. Some of these lakes will remain for centuries. Others will burst suddenly, their ice dams failing in a rush of catastrophic flood. I stand on the bank of one such lake, the surface smooth and deceptively calm. Beneath it lies pressure, a hidden force waiting for the moment when the dam weakens. And then, without warning, the wall of ice breaks. The water rushes forward, tearing the earth open, carrying entire forests in its grip. Boulders roll like toys. The roar is overwhelming, louder than thunder, louder than storms. When it is over, the land is stripped bare, scarred but fertile in ways it had not been before. I walk across one of these newly scoured plains. The soil is dark, fresh, rich, with minerals ground down by the glacier's relentless work. Small plants begin to take root, pioneers of a new ecosystem. Birds swoop down, searching for seeds, and animals soon follow, curious and cautious. I realize I am witnessing rebirth. The destruction is undeniable, but within it lies opportunity. Life is quick to claim it, to turn chaos into abundance. Humans come too, moving carefully along the new rivers, setting camps near the fresh lakes. They are drawn to the fish that teem in waters newly freed, to the fertile soil, where edible plants grow more easily, to the animals that gather in the fresh pastures. I sit with them in the evening as the sun sets over the water. The fire crackles and the air smells of wood smoke and roasted meat. Children laugh, chasing one another along the shoreline, their feet splashing in shallow pools. Elders speak quietly, telling of times when the water was not here, when the land stretched further, when the glacier pressed harder. They remember both the ice and the flood, and their voices carry both fear and gratitude. The rising water reshapes not only valleys, but entire coastlines. I walk toward the edge of a vast plain that has been exposed for thousands of years, land that once lay hidden beneath the sea. People have crossed here following herds of reindeer and mammoth, building lives on a landscape borrowed from the ocean. Now the water is returning. Slowly, at first almost imperceptibly, but year after year the sea creeps closer. Marshes form, then shallow bays. The land bridge narrows, becomes treacherous, then vanishes beneath waves. I imagine the moment when a family stands at the shore, realizing they can go no further. The path their ancestors once walked is gone. Across the waves lies land they can no longer reach. Their world has become smaller, not by choice, but by the breath of the earth. Some will adapt, turning to fishing, learning the secrets of the sea. Others will turn back, following the herds inland. The rising waters are not simply barriers. They are crossroads that force choices that shape the paths of future generations. The animals feel these changes too. Mammoths lose grazing grounds as marshes spread. Reindeer alter their migrations, seeking higher ground. Fish surge into new rivers and lakes, becoming a vital source of food for humans, who learn to catch them with nets and spears. Birds find new nesting grounds along the growing coastlines. The balance shifts, but life bends with it, always searching for the next place to endure. As I walk through this world in flux, I sense how unsettling it must have been. Nothing stays the same. A valley where people hunted for years may flood in a single season. A path once safe may vanish beneath water. Yet within this uncertainty lies resilience. Humans become students of change, watching the signs closely. Thickness of ice, the tilt of the sun, the behavior of animals. They learn to anticipate, to move when the world moves, to let go of places they once called home. At night, I sit beside a new lake, its waters black and still beneath the stars. The fire burns low, and the voices of the people around me grow softer. Someone sings a slow melody that drifts across the water. The song tells of the ice that once stood here, of the flood that carved the lake, of the life that now gathers around it. The words are simple, but they carry memory. They turn change into story, and story into survival. The Earth's breath continues unstoppable. The glaciers retreat further, the seas rise higher, the land reshapes itself again and again. I lie back, watching the aurora ripple across the sky, and I feel both small and eternal. The world is in motion, and so am I. Each step I take across this landscape is a reminder that nothing endures forever. Not the ice, not the seas, not even the mountains. And yet, within that impermanence lies continuity. Life does not resist the rhythm. It moves with it, finding strength in the very act of adapting. The world is restless. Each day I spend walking across this changing land reminds me that I am not a witness to stability, but to transformation. The ice continues to retreat, releasing rivers that cut new courses into the soil. Valleys that once lay silent beneath snow now echo with the calls of birds and the splash of fish breaking the surface of water. The earth is remaking itself in front of me, not with haste, but with the patience of centuries. I follow one of the rivers born from the glacier. It begins as a trickle high on the ice, then gathers into a stream, then into a torrent that rushes down the slope. The water is cold, carrying with it fragments of rock, grains of sand dust that had been locked inside the glacier for thousands of years. As I walk beside it, I feel as though I am following a thread, unraveling from an ancient tapestry, the glacier slowly giving back everything it once consumed. The river widens into a great lake. Its surface is restless, stirred by winds dotted with floating icebergs that have broken free. Along its shores, plants push upward, bright shoots piercing the soil. Animals gather, elk grazing bears, searching for fish birds nesting in the reeds. Humans, too, set their camps nearby, drawn to the abundance. I sit among them as they prepare nets woven from plant fibers, testing their strength in the cold water. For the first time, fish become a steady source of life, not just a rare catch. The people laugh as they pull shimmering bodies from the lake, their eyes bright with relief. The world is changing, but they are changing with it. The rising waters do not only bring gifts, they also take. I walk toward a plain where once mammoths grazed. Now the plain is half-drowned pools spreading wider each season. The ground is soft, treacherous, sucking at my feet as I try to cross. The animals avoid it now, the grass too wet, the footing too unstable. What was once pasture has become marshland, and soon the marsh will become sea. I pause at the edge looking out across the water that glimmers in the sunlight. Somewhere out there beneath the surface lie the paths people once walked, the stones they once used to build hearths, the bones of animals hunted long ago. The sea has swallowed them, erasing not only land, but memory. And yet, perhaps not erasing, perhaps preserving, holding these things in silence until some distant future when they might be found again. The people who live along these coasts adapt in ways that feel both ancient and new. They carve boats from wood-hollowing trunks with fire shaping them with stone tools. They test the waters cautiously first along the shore, then further out, learning how to balance against the waves. Fishing becomes not only a skill, but a way of life. The ocean, once a barrier, becomes a road. I imagine the awe of the first person who realized that the horizon could be crossed, that there was more beyond the endless blue. That courage changes everything. Inland, other groups continue to follow the herds climbing higher as the ice retreats and grass spreads across the valleys. I walk with them, feeling the rhythm of migration, wake pack, move hunt, rest, and move again. They live lightly on the land, leaving behind only ashes and footprints. Their world is wide, and they know it intimately, which ridges catch the morning sun first, where rivers freeze last, where the wind carries the smell of game. They are maps in motion, memory carried in footsteps. The more I walk, the more I see how this age of melting reshapes not just the land, but the people. The floods, the rising seas, the shifting rivers, these are not simply disasters. They are teachers. They force adaptation, ingenuity, resilience. I watch as people learn to make shelters that can be taken apart and moved quickly. I see them develop tools to work wood more finely, to craft boats, to fashion nets. I hear them sing new songs about water, songs that remember both the loss and the gift of the floods. At night, near a coastal fire, I listen to one such song. The melody is slow, the words simple, repeating like waves against the shore. It tells of land lost to the sea, of ancestors who walked across plains that no longer exist, of fish that now swim where mammoths once roamed. It is mournful, but not despairing. It accepts the change, honors the memory, and embraces the new. The song is not only music, but history carried forward in a form that no flood can erase. As the fire dies down, I walk to the water's edge. The tide is low, exposing rocks slick with seaweed. The waves lap gently, but I know that in time they will rise higher, reach further, claim more land. The moon hangs above, pale and watchful, pulling the water in its endless rhythm. I realize then that the breath of the earth is not only in the glaciers, but in the tides as well. The moon and the sun, the ice and the sea, they are all part of the same rhythm, the same song. The thought humbles me. I have been so focused on the ice, the floods, the rising seas, but all along it is the balance of forces greater than I can grasp that guides it all. Gravity, orbit, tilt, sunlight, water, all intertwined, shaping the lives of every creature, every plant, every person. The world is not chaotic. It is patterned, though the pattern stretches beyond the limits of a single human life. I lie back on the sand listening to the water. It whispers against the shore, steady, eternal. The sound blends with the memory of glaciers cracking rivers, roaring floods tearing through valleys. Together, they form a chorus, the voice of a planet in motion. And within that voice, I hear something else, endurance. Not of places or forms, for those always change, but of life itself, adapting, bending, enduring. The morning comes with a haze over the water. Mist rises from the lake, curling upward into the cold air. The surface is so still, it mirrors the sky, broken only by the occasional ripple of a fish. I sit on the bank watching, and I realize how quickly this place has transformed. Not long ago, this basin was a glacier, heavy and lifeless, pressing down on the land. Now it is a lake filled with movement, with birds swooping low, with reeds rustling in the breeze, with humans gathering along its edge. The world remakes itself quietly without pause, and we learn to live within its rhythm. I walk further south, where the warming is more advanced. Forests return, spreading across ground once scraped bare by ice. Birch and pine reach upward, their roots digging into soil enriched by glacial dust. Animals return with them, deer stepping carefully among the trees, wild boar rooting in the undergrowth, bears following rivers rich with salmon. I pause in the shade of a tree, its leaves trembling in the light wind, and I breathe in the smell of earth, damp and alive. It is hard to imagine that only a few lifetimes earlier, this same ground lay silent beneath miles of ice. The humans here build their camps differently now. Where once they huddled in caves and temporary shelters on open tundra, they now use wood from the forests to create sturdier homes. Fire still burns at the center, but the walls are thicker, the roofs stronger. Life is still hard, but the abundance of plants, fish, and animals makes survival less fragile. I sit by one of these fires, listening to voices that no longer speak only of hunger and cold, but also of craft, of beauty, of belonging. A child shows me a carving made from bone, a simple shape but delicate, made not just for utility, but for joy. Even in the shadow of change, creativity blossoms. Yet the sea continues to rise. I return to the coast, where the waves now lap higher than before. Each season, the shoreline creeps inland, swallowing forests, meadows, even entire valleys. Villages that once stood far from the shore now find themselves at the edge of the water. Some people retreat inland, following rivers and forests. Others stay embracing the sea, learning its moods, finding food in its depths. They fashion boats not only from wood, but also from hides stretched over frames. They learn to ride the waves, to cast nets, to follow fish instead of herds. The sea becomes a new frontier, both feared and cherished. One evening, I stand with a group of people as they launch a boat into the surf. The tide pulls strong, the moon lifting the water toward itself. The boat sways, then steadies, and they paddle out, their silhouettes dark against the pale horizon. They are small against the immensity of the sea, yet their courage carries them. Watching them, I feel the shift in humanity's story. We are no longer only wanderers of land, but now voyagers of water, drawn forward by the same curiosity and resilience that has always guided us. Still, there is loss. I walk to a place where once a great plain stretched wide, where mammoths grazed and people hunted. Now it lies beneath waves. The only trace is the memory carried in stories, the songs sung by elders at night. Around the fire, one such elder sings of land that is gone. His voice is soft, steady, like the sea itself. He sings not in grief alone, but in remembrance, so that the young will know that the world has changed before and will change again. The song is a bridge carrying the memory of land across the water that has taken it. The animals change with the world as well. Some vanished giants, like the mammoth and the saber-toothed cat, slowly disappear, unable to keep pace with the shifting climate and the pressure of human hunters. Others thrive, deer, boar, fish, birds, filling the new niches left behind. Life reshuffles, finding balance in the new order. I watch a flock of birds rising together over the water, their wings beating in unison, and I am struck by the continuity. Species come and go, but life itself persists endlessly, adaptive, endlessly resilient. The more I see, the more I feel the deep truth of impermanence. Nothing is fixed. The ice retreats, the seas advance, the forests spread, the plains drown. Camps move stories, shift songs, adapt. To live in this time is to live in motion, never clinging too tightly to what is always ready to embrace what comes. And perhaps that is the lesson of this age, not to resist change, but to flow with it, to carry memory forward while making space for what is new. As night falls, I sit once more by a fire near the shore. The sea glimmers under the stars, restless but eternal. The people around me are quiet, their faces lit by flame. A child leans against her mother, listening to the song of the waves. I close my eyes, and in the rhythm of the water, I hear echoes of the glacier's breath, the roar of floods, the whispers of rivers. It is all one rhythm, one endless song of earth in motion. I breathe with it slowly, steadily, letting the sound carry me. The earth breathes, and so do I. And in that shared breath, I feel connected not only to this moment, but to all the moments that came before, and to all that will come after. The story of the Ice Age is not only about what was lost, but about how life found its way through change again and again. I walk along the edge of the glacier, where land and ice meet in a fragile boundary. The air is damp here, heavy with the scent of melting snow and raw earth newly uncovered. The world feels unsettled, caught between ages, the old age of frozen dominion and the new age of flowing rivers and spreading forests. Life gathers at this edge, where abundance and danger live side by side. It is here that humans and giants cross paths, both shaped by the same rhythm of survival. I see them in the distance, a herd of mammoths moving slowly across the tundra. Their shaggy coats ripple in the wind, their great tusks curve like crescents of ivory gleaming in the fading light. Calves stay close to their mothers, stumbling but determined. Their feet press deep into the soil, leaving behind impressions that will remain long after they have passed. Each step feels monumental, a quiet declaration of resilience in a world that no longer favors their kind. The humans watch them from a ridge, silent and still. They are wrapped in furs, spears in hand, their faces tense with focus. The hunt is not certain, not easy. A mammoth is powerful, dangerous, capable of crushing a hunter with a single movement. And yet to bring one down means survival for weeks, meat to eat fat, to burn hides, to wear bones, to shape into tools. The hunters know the risk, but they also know the reward. I walk with them as they prepare. They whisper to one another, not with words alone, but with gestures honed by generations. A glance, a hand signal a shift in posture, all carry meaning. They spread out, some circling wide, others waiting in concealment. The air grows tense, every breath held. Then, at the right moment, they move. Spears fly, striking with precision, born of need. The mammoth bellows a deep, thunderous sound that shakes the ground. The herd scatters, calves crying, mothers charging, but the hunters hold steady. They are small, fragile, compared to the beast, yet together they prevail. When it is done, the silence that follows is heavy. The hunters gather around the fallen mammoth, their faces a mixture of triumph and sorrow. They know the cost of this life, the gravity of taking it. They kneel, some touching the animal's flank, offering words I cannot hear but can almost feel. It is gratitude, reverence, perhaps apology. The mammoth will not be wasted. Every part will be used: meat, hide, bone, sinew. Nothing will be left behind. The act is not just survival, but ritual, a binding of human life to the life of the animal. The camp grows busy with work. Fires are built, smoke rises, knives of stone cut carefully through thick hide. The smell of roasting meat fills the air, rich and heavy. Children watch, learning, their eyes wide, with a mix of awe and hunger. Elders supervise, ensuring the knowledge is passed correctly: how to strip the hide, how to preserve fat, how to carve bone into needles and tools. Around the fire, songs are sung, voices low but steady, honoring the mammoth that gave itself. I sit among them listening, feeling the warmth of the fire against the cold night. The stars burn clear above, and the glacier looms pale in the distance. The song carries not only memory of the hunt, but something deeper, a recognition of the bond between people and the world they inhabit. They do not see themselves as separate from it. They are part of it, bound to its rhythm, dependent on its gifts. Beyond the mammoth, other giants walk these lands. I see the woolly rhinoceros, its horn massive and sharp, its body heavy with muscle and fur. It grazes cautiously, its small eyes scanning for danger. Nearby, a herd of giant deer spread their vast antlers like forests in motion, each step deliberate. The cave lion stalks the edges of the plain, its form larger and more powerful than any lion I know, its golden eyes catching the faint light. The ground sloth moves slowly through the forest edge, tearing branches with claws like sickles. To walk among them is to walk in a world of giants. Their presence shapes the land, the vegetation, the lives of the humans who share it. To hunt them is dangerous, often deadly, but their size makes them central to survival. To lose them is to lose more than food, it is to lose part of the world's very fabric. And I see that loss beginning. The herds are smaller than before, scattered. The hunts succeed less often, not only because the animals grow rarer, but because the climate changes faster than they can adapt. The glaciers retreat, the forests spread, the grasslands shrink. The giants find less space, less food, less security. Humans press harder, needing what they provide. The balance grows fragile. I sit by another fire, this one quieter, more somber. The people speak of a time when mammoths were everywhere, when one could see them from every ridge, their backs rising like hills on the horizon. Now, they are fewer. The people know it, even if they do not yet know what extinction means. They feel the absence in their bones, in their stories. Some elders say the mammoths will return, that they are only hiding, waiting for the ice to return. Others say they are fading, leaving behind their strength for humans to carry forward. As the flames crackle, I think about how deeply intertwined these lives are. Without the giants, human survival would have been harder. Without humans, perhaps the giants would have endured longer. Their fates are linked, tangled in the same breath of the earth, and in this entanglement lies both creation and loss. The night grows cold, but the fire holds back the darkness. I close my eyes, listening to the voices around me, to the distant howl of wolves, to the groan of the glacier. I feel the weight of impermanence of lives rising and falling with the turning of ages. The mammoths, the lions, the humans, all are notes in the same song, a song that plays whether or not we hear it. And as I drift deeper into that sound, I understand that the story of this time is not only about survival. It is about connection between people, between species, between earth and sky, between ice and fire. It is a reminder that to live is to share, to give and take in balance, to honor what sustains us even as it disappears. The world is changing. The giants are fading, but their memory will remain carried in stories, in songs, in the very shape of the land they once walked. I open my eyes to the flicker of the fire and the endless sweep of stars, and I feel small but not alone. The glacier breathes behind me. The sea murmurs ahead, the fire warms my skin, and the voices of people rise softly in the night. For this moment, we are all together, the hunters, the giants, the earth itself, bound by the same fragile, enduring breath. The night is long, but the fire holds it back. I sit near the flames, their warmth touching my skin, their light flickering across the faces of the people gathered around. Fire is no longer just survival. It is memory, a thread that binds us to one another. Around the fire we speak, we sing, we remember. It is here that the story of humanity begins to change, begins to root itself not only in movement, but in place. For countless generations, we followed the herds, moved with the seasons, carried everything we owned on our backs. The earth was vast, and we belonged to it without borders. But now, I see something new. People linger. They choose to stay near rivers, where fish are plentiful in valleys, where plants grow thick on coasts, where the sea offers its endless bounty. The shelters they build are stronger, not meant to be abandoned in a week, but to endure through storms. Poles of wood covered with hides and branches stand in circles, forming something like a village. Children play between them. Elders sit together, their eyes watching, but also remembering. This is the beginning of settlement. I watch as food is gathered not just for the day, but for the future. Meat is dried in the smoke of fires. Berries are stored in woven baskets. Nuts are cracked and hidden away. The concept of later enters human life in a new way. To save for later means to trust in tomorrow, to imagine a future that will resemble today. It is a quiet revolution. Fire becomes the heart of this change. Each village has its central hearth, tended constantly, never allowed to die. Its smoke rises like a pillar, a sign of continuity. Around it, stories are told not only of the hunt, but of ancestors, of spirits, of the shape of the world. Children learn these stories, their voices repeating the words until they are carved into memory. Fire is warmth. Fire is safety. But fire is also history, carrying words across generations. I walk among the shelters, hearing the sounds of tools shaping wood, of stones, striking together to form blades of laughter carried in the air. People are not only surviving now, they are shaping their surroundings. I see patches of ground cleared, seeds scattered. Perhaps by accident at first dropped while eating, then noticed when plants return in the same place. Curiosity becomes intention. Hands begin to guide what once grew wild. It is not yet farming as I know it, but it is its beginning, the first step toward a partnership with the earth itself. Animals, too, draw closer. Dogs linger at the edge of camps, drawn by scraps, by warmth, by companionship. They are not yet fully part of the human circle, but they are near, watching, waiting, learning. I see the beginnings of a bond that will reshape the story of both species. Other animals, goats, sheep, are watched more carefully, not only hunted, but sometimes kept guided. Their movements influenced by human will. The line between wild and domestic begins to blur. In the stillness of night, I walk into a cave nearby. Its walls are alive with images: bison deer, horses, mammoths painted with ochre, etched with charcoal. Hands are pressed against the stone, leaving outlines that reach across millennia. These are not mere decorations. They are memory, a way of holding on to what might otherwise fade. I trace the lines with my eyes, feeling the presence of the one who made them. Their hand once pressed here, their eyes once looked upon this wall. Their spirit still lingers in the shapes they left behind. This is not only art, but history, testimony to the human need to remember. The elders speak of dreams as well. Around the fire they describe visions, voices heard in sleep, signs seen in the stars. These dreams guide decisions: where to move, when to hunt, what dangers lie ahead. Dreams are part of memory too, weaving together the seen and unseen into the story of the people. I sit quietly listening, and I realize that memory itself has become a tool as vital as any spear or blade. Without it, there is no continuity, no community. With it, the past and the future are joined in the present. Life in these first villages is not without hardship. Storms come, floods rise, food runs short. Illness strikes, and sometimes entire families are lost. Yet even in grief, there is a new strength, the strength of many. Where once survival depended on the individual, now it depends on the group. Together, they share, they mourn, they endure. I see women grinding seeds into flour, men carving weapons, not just for themselves, but for all children, learning not only from their parents, but from the whole village. This web of sharing is as revolutionary as the fire itself. One evening, I sit by the river, watching reflections of firelight shimmer on the water. Behind me, the village hums with life. Ahead of me, the dark forest breathes with mystery. I realize that humanity has reached a threshold. We are no longer only wanderers. We are becoming settlers, dreamers, builders. The earth is no longer just a place we pass through. It is a place we belong to. The voices of the people rise behind me, singing softly. Their song drifts across the water, mixing with the rustle of leaves and the calls of night birds. It is a song of fire, of memory, of home. And as I listen, I feel the weight of the moment, the turning of an age. From this point on, the story of humanity will never be the same. I breathe slowly, letting the sound settle in me. The fire crackles, the river flows, the earth turns. And I know that this is only the beginning. The river has always been here long before I arrived, long before the first footsteps pressed into its muddy banks. Its voice is constant, flowing through the silence of the land. I walk beside it, listening. The water speaks not in words, but in rhythms, sometimes a soft murmur, sometimes a rushing roar, always alive, always moving. It draws me forward, guiding my steps, as though the current itself carries memory. At first, I only see it as water, as life made liquid. But as I walk, I begin to understand. The river is not only something that nourishes, it is something that remembers. It holds the mountains in its current, carrying their stones and soil far downstream. It holds the sky in its reflection, the forests in its shade, the fish and reeds in its embrace. It is the sum of all things around it, a path that binds them together. And now it binds people too. I sit with a group by the river's edge. Their homes stand not far away, shelters of wood and hide clustered near the bend where fish gather. The air smells of smoke and damp earth, of reeds drying in the sun. Children laugh as they wade in the shallows, chasing after small fish with their hands. Elders sit in a circle, shaping tools, weaving baskets. The rhythm of their work matches the rhythm of the river, steady and unhurried. When night falls, they light fires close to the bank. The flames flicker against the water, the reflections dancing. Around the fire, stories rise, voices soft but clear. They speak of ancestors who followed this river of spirits, who live in its depths of dreams carried by its flow. Each word feels like a stone placed carefully into a foundation. The stories are not just told for the moment, they are laid down for memory for those who will listen after. The people know the river's moods. They know when it will flood, when it will shrink, when the fish will rise, when the ice will break. They watch the moon and the stars, the winds and the birds, all signs that speak of what the river will do. This knowledge is not written anywhere. It is carried in memory, in the words of elders, in the songs of mothers, in the games of children. Knowledge itself flows like the river, always moving, always shared. I walk further along its length, and I see more people. Villages rise where the banks widen, where soil is rich, where water bends and pauses. Each village is a mirror of the others, yet each is different, shaped by its place. Some fish, some hunt the forests nearby, some gather reeds to weave into mats and baskets. But all of them face the river, all of them lean toward it, as though toward a parent. Without it, they could not be here. With it, they endure. One morning, I follow a group as they set out in boats. The boats are simple hollowed logs, bound hides, stretched over wooden frames, but they float steady enough to carry people and baskets and hope. They push off with poles, then drift with the current, their paddles dipping in and out of the water in slow rhythm. I sit among them, listening to the splash of paddles, the call of birds, the creak of wood. The current carries us, and with it the sense that we are not moving alone. The river itself moves with us, guiding, allowing, teaching. The journey is not only for food, it is for connection. Downstream, another village waits. The people there are not strangers, though they do not live together. They are kin of another kind, tied by trade, by stories, by the river itself. When we arrive, there is no hesitation. The villagers come to greet us, to share food, to offer gifts. Fish for stone, hides for baskets, stories for songs. Nothing is wasted. Everything is shared. And in that sharing, the river becomes more than a path of water. It becomes a path of memory, carrying words and goods and lives between places. I sit by their fire that night, listening again to stories. They are not the same as those told upstream. The names of ancestors differ. The spirits have other shapes, the songs, other melodies. Yet the heart of the stories is the same. The river gives, the river takes, the river binds. I realize that even when words change, the current beneath them is the same. The river is the common language, the voice that unites them all. Days pass as I travel further. I see carvings on rocks near the water's edge, shapes of fish, of waves of hands pressed into stone. Perhaps they are marks of presence, perhaps prayers, perhaps warnings. Whatever their meaning, they are attempts to hold memory against the flow of time. The river carries everything away, yet here are marks that try to stay to root memory in place even as the water moves on. I stop at a narrow bend where the current rushes hard against the rocks. The sound is thunderous, endless. I close my eyes and I feel it not only in my ears, but in my chest, in my bones. It is as though the river speaks directly to me, reminding me that life is not stillness, but flow. To live is to move, to change, to adapt. And yet, within that change, there is continuity. The river never stops, but it is always the river. So too with humanity we move, we adapt, we change, and yet something in us remains carried forward like the current. At night, I lie down on the riverbank, the stars above me, the sound of water beside me. I feel the world breathing with me, the air cool on my skin, the earth firm beneath me, the river whispering beside me. I think of all the lives that have leaned close to this water, all the hands that have cupped it all, the voices that have sung to it. I am only one among them, another ripple in its endless flow. And yet, in that thought, I feel no smallness. I feel belonging. The river has always been here. It will always be here. And in its memory, I too will remain. The days blend together as I continue to follow the river. Its voice never ceases, though its tone changes, sometimes calm, sometimes fierce, sometimes barely a whisper over stones. With each bend and turn, I see new faces, new camps, new ways of living, and yet all are drawn into the same embrace of water. I begin to feel that the river itself is the thread weaving humanity together, pulling distant lives into a single fabric. One afternoon, I come upon a wide stretch where the river slows and spreads into a broad plain. Here, people gather in greater numbers than I have seen before. Their shelters form clusters not only of families, but of many families bound by proximity and purpose. Nets hang drying in the sun, filled with the shimmer of fish. Racks of meat smoke gently in the wind. Children carry water in carved gourds, their laughter mingling with the calls of birds. The village is alive with sound and motion, and at its center flows the river, the lifeblood of it all. I notice something different here. People carve marks into bones and stones patterns that seem to hold meaning. Some say these marks are tallies of fish caught, others that they are prayers, or perhaps records of the passing days. Whatever they are more than decoration. They are attempts to give shape to memory, to fix it in something that endures beyond the voice. Words vanish with the breath, but marks remain, holding the past steady even as time moves on. At night, the fire burns brighter than usual. Many gather, more than I can count, and the sound of voices rises into the sky. Songs are sung in harmony, drums beat with the rhythm of the water, dancers move in circles, their steps echoing the flow of the current. I sit among them, feeling the vibration of feet against the earth, the pulse of the drum through my chest. The celebration is not only for survival, but for belonging. They are not just individuals clinging to life. They are a people bound together by fire, by song, by river. As I travel further, I notice how rivers connect not only villages, but landscapes. The forests thin, giving way to wide grasslands. Herds graze on the banks, and hunters wait in silence for the right moment to strike. Beyond, mountains rise, their peaks still capped with snow, feeding the river with their melting ice. The river knows no borders. It flows through all, binding mountain and plain, forest and marsh, coast and sea. And in its flow it carries people too, carrying their goods, their stories, their dreams. One day, I travel with a group who follow the river, not to settle, but to explore. They are curious, restless, drawn forward by the question of what lies beyond. They move lightly, with baskets of food spears, and the trust that the river will guide them. At each bend they pause, searching for signs, reading the land, listening to the birds. I walk among them, sharing their silence, feeling the anticipation of discovery. When we reach a place where the river splits, they hesitate. One branch bends east, the other west. They debate softly, not in conflict, but in care, knowing that each choice leads to a different unknown. Eventually, they choose the west, guided by instinct, by the sun, by the faint memory of stories told by travelers before. And so the journey continues. I realize then that the river is not only a provider, but a teacher. It teaches patience, for its pace cannot be rushed. It teaches humility, for its floods cannot be stopped. It teaches connection, for it ties all life together in its flow. And above all, it teaches continuity, that though each drop of water passes, the river remains. Humanity learns this lesson too slowly, imperfectly, but deeply. In the quiet of another night, I rest again by the riverbank. The moonlight spills across the surface, turning it silver. The current glimmers, and I imagine it as a road not of stone or earth, but of time. Each ripple carries memory forward of ancestors who fished here, of children who played here, of songs that rose here. The river remembers even when we forget. And perhaps by listening closely enough, we can remember too. I close my eyes, letting the sound wash over me. It is endless, eternal, a song without beginning or end. It carries me as it has carried countless others, as it will carry countless more. I am a traveler, a witness, a small part of its great memory, and in its embrace, I feel at peace. The forest rises before me like a vast cathedral of living wood. Tall trees stretch upward, their trunks thick, their branches weaving a roof of leaves that filters the sunlight into shifting patterns on the ground. The air is cool here, damp with the scent of moss and earth. Every step I take is cushioned by fallen leaves, by centuries of quiet decay and renewal. The forest breathes, and I breathe with it. For so long the world I walked was ice and open plain, windswept and sparse. But now, as the ice retreats, the forests return. They spread across the land, reclaiming valleys and hills, filling the silence with the whisper of leaves, the chatter of birds, the rustle of unseen creatures moving through the undergrowth. Life multiplies here, layer upon layer, each branch, each root, each stone home to something new. I walk beneath the canopy, feeling small, enclosed, protected. Sunlight filters down in thin beams, touching the ferns that curl at my feet, the mushrooms that glow faintly in the shadows, the vines that climb eagerly toward the sky. Insects hum, tiny wings flashing in the light. Birds dart overhead, their feathers bright against the green. A deer steps cautiously onto the path ahead, its ears flicking, its eyes wide. It pauses, then bounds away, vanishing into the thick growth. The people I meet here live differently than those of the plains or the riverbanks. Their shelters are built from wood, their walls woven from branches, their roofs layered with leaves. They move with the forest, gathering fruits, nuts, and roots, hunting small game, fishing in streams that wind quietly beneath the trees. Their lives are shaped not by the vast horizon, but by the nearness of trunks and shadows, by the constant sound of life close at hand. At night, the forest changes. The canopy darkens, the wind hushes, and the calls of nocturnal creatures rise. Owls hoot from high branches, their voices carrying through the stillness. Insects sing in steady rhythm, a hum that fills the air like a heartbeat. Fires burn low in small clearings, their smoke curling upward until it disappears among the stars. Around these fires, people speak in hushed voices, as though not to disturb the forest that surrounds them. Their stories are filled with animals that talk, trees that walk, spirits that dwell in the shadows. They do not see the forest as separate from themselves, but as kin, alive with presence, watching and listening. I sit with them listening. A child presses close to her mother, eyes wide as she hears a tale of a great bear that guards the northern woods, punishing those who take more than they need. Another child laughs as a story is told of a mischievous fox who tricks hunters, leading them in circles until they give up the chase. The forest is not just a place to live. It is a teacher, a source of wisdom, a keeper of balance. As I walk further, I notice the way the people read the forest. They know which plants heal and which harm, which mushrooms can be eaten and which bring death. They know the tracks of animals, the sound of their calls, the meaning of their silence. A broken twig, a tuft of fur, a disturbed patch of soil, all are signs, messages written in the language of the forest. Knowledge is survival, and it is passed carefully from one generation to the next, from elder to child, from hunter to apprentice. One day, I follow a small group on a hunt. They move silently, their steps careful, their eyes sharp. They carry bows strung with sinew arrows tipped with stone. Ahead, they spot a boar rooting among the roots. They signal to one another with small gestures, then move into position. The moment is quick, an arrow flies, striking true. The boar squeals, then falls. The hunters approach, their faces solemn. They kneel, touching the animal, whispering words of thanks. The hunt is not taken lightly. Life is taken with reverence, with the understanding that survival depends on respect. The forest provides more than food. Its wood builds shelters, its bark weaves baskets, its resin lights, fires, its fibers bind tools. Its rivers offer water, its stones shape blades. Everything here has use, and everything here is honored. Yet the people know that the forest can also take. Storms can bring down trees, floods can sweep away camps, predators can strike from the shadows. To live here is to live in balance, never taking too much, never forgetting the power of the place. As night falls again, I lie beneath the canopy, looking up through a gap where the stars shine faintly. The branches sway, the leaves whisper, the forest breathes. I feel the pulse of it steady, patient, eternal. And I understand that the forest is not only a home, but a rhythm, another voice in the great song of the earth. The deeper I walk into the forest, the more I feel its embrace closing around me. The light grows dim, filtered through layer upon layer of leaves, until it is less sunlight than shadow touched with green. Every sound becomes sharper, the drip of water from branches, the crackle of leaves underfoot, the call of a bird echoing far above. The forest is not silence, but a living symphony. Each sound part of a greater harmony that never ceases. I stop beside a fallen tree, its trunk thick, its bark rough with age. Moss spreads across its surface, bright green against the dark wood. Insects crawl over it, birds peck at it, fungi sprout in delicate clusters. Even in death, the tree is alive with life, feeding, sheltering, giving. I run my hand along the damp surface, feeling the softness of decay, the transformation from wood to soil. Here, nothing is wasted. Here, the cycle is complete. The people of the forest know this truth. They walk with care, stepping lightly, taking only what is needed. I see a woman gathering plants, her eyes scanning the ground with practiced ease. She plucks leaves, roots, berries, placing them gently into a woven basket. Each plant has a use: food, medicine, dye, fiber. She hums softly as she works a song that seems to match the rhythm of her movements, the rhythm of the forest itself. Later, I sit with her by a fire. She shows me the plants, naming each one, describing its use. A root that soothes fever, a leaf that heals wounds, a mushroom that must never be eaten. She speaks not only of what they are, but of how they must be gathered with respect, with gratitude, never too much from one place. Knowledge is not just survival. It is relationship, a bond between human and earth, carried forward in memory and song. The hunters, too, speak of the forest as teacher. They know where the deer pass, where the boar root, where the birds nest. They know the signs of predators, the tracks of wolves, the silent presence of a stalking cat. I follow them one morning, moving through the undergrowth. The forest seems dense, confusing, but to them it is clear, a map written in signs invisible to me. A broken branch, a faint smell, the way birds scatter suddenly, all reveal what is hidden. They walk with the forest, not against it, and in that harmony lies their strength. The children learn by watching, by following, by listening. I see a boy crouch by a patch of mushrooms, repeating the names after his mother, touching them carefully, memorizing their shapes. I see a girl stringing beads of bone, her small fingers clumsy but determined, learning the patterns that hold meaning in her people's lives. Around the fire at night, they listen wide-eyed, as elders tell stories of trees that speak of spirits that walk in animal form, of ancestors who still wander these woods unseen. Story is not separate from life. It is how life is remembered, how knowledge endures, how meaning is carried forward. The forest is not without fear. Storms come suddenly, lightning striking trees, winds tearing branches loose. Fires rage, devouring everything in their path, leaving behind blackened earth. Predators lurk in the shadows, their eyes glowing in the dark. Illness spreads in dampness, unseen and unstoppable. Yet even in fear there is respect. The people know the forest gives and takes. To live here is to live with humility, never forgetting that survival is a gift, not a guarantee. One evening, I climb a ridge where the trees part, opening to the sky. The view stretches far, endless forest, rolling hills, distant rivers glinting in the last light of day. The air is still, the silence vast. I breathe deeply, filling my lungs with the scent of pine, of earth, of life itself. I realize then how immense this forest is, how ancient, how enduring. It is not just a place. It is a world, a breathing world that holds within it the memory of all who have lived here. As night falls, I return to the fire. The people sit close, their voices low, their faces glowing in the light. A story is told of a great tree at the center of the world, its roots deep in the earth, its branches touching the sky. From its roots, rivers flow. From its branches, stars are born. From its trunk, people came into being. The story is simple, yet it holds a truth deeper than fact, that life is one that we are bound to the forest, to the earth, to the sky. I close my eyes listening to the crackle of the fire, to the wind moving softly through the leaves, to the breath of those around me. The forest breathes, and I breathe with it. And in that shared breath, I feel part of something vast, something eternal, something that endures beyond my small life. The night descends slowly, a curtain of shadow pulling across the sky. The forest quiets, the last calls of birds fading into silence, replaced by the hum of insects and the distant howl of wolves. Darkness gathers vast and unbroken, swallowing the shapes of trees, the outlines of hills, the shimmer of the river. In that darkness, the world feels endless, heavy, and uncertain. But at its center, a fire burns steady and alive, and around it people gather. I sit close to the flames, watching the sparks rise into the air like tiny stars escaping into the night. The fire cracks and pops, the wood shifting as it burns, releasing the scent of resin and smoke. Its light flickers across faces warm and familiar, softening the hard lines of worry and hunger. Here in this circle of light, the night does not feel so vast, nor the darkness so complete. The fire is more than warmth. It is more than safety. It is a heart, a center, a thread that ties us together. I think of all the places I have walked, plains, rivers, forests, mountains, and in each fire has been there. It is the constant, the companion, the guardian. By day, the sun rules the sky, but by night, the fire rules the earth. Without it, we would scatter into the dark, lost and afraid. With it, we sit close, we speak, we remember. Fire creates community. The people around me lean into its glow. Children cluster together, their eyes wide shadows dancing across their faces. Women tend to food, turning meat on sticks, stirring pots of boiling roots and herbs. Men repair tools in the flickering light, sharpening stone blades, binding handles with sinew. Elders sit apart, watching their expressions calm their eyes, reflecting the fire. All of life unfolds in this circle: work, rest, teaching, dreaming. When the meal is ready, it is shared. Hands pass bowls, voices murmur thanks. The taste of meat, of broth, of smoke fills the mouth, warming from within. Hunger softens, bellies fill, and laughter returns. The fire makes this possible. It transforms raw into cooked bitter, into nourishing danger, into comfort. It is alchemy in its simplest, most profound form. After the meal, the stories begin. One voice rises slow and steady, carrying words older than memory. It speaks of ancestors who followed the stars, of beasts that once roamed the plains, of rivers that carved the land, of spirits who watch from the shadows. The children lean closer, their eyes fix, their bodies still. The story moves from voice to voice, each adding a part, each shaping the memory. Around the fire, history is not written. It is spoken, carried from one generation to the next, like an ember that must not die. I listen, and I feel how the fire itself is part of the story. The flicker of flame matches the rhythm of the words. The glow holds attention, keeps the darkness at bay, creates the space where memory can survive. Without fire, the story would vanish into silence, scattered by the night wind. With fire, it endures. As the stories fade, songs begin. Soft at first, then louder voices joining together, weaving harmony. Drums made from stretched hides beat steadily, echoing the heartbeat of those who play them. Feet stamp against the earth, bodies sway in the light. The fire throws shadows that dance on the walls of the forest, shapes larger than life, spirits moving among the living. The songs are not only for joy. They are for remembrance, for binding, for calling strength. In their rhythm, fear is eased, sorrow softened, hope carried forward. I watch the children as they drift towards sleep. Their heads rest against their mother's arms, their eyes fluttering closed. The firelight plays across their faces, imprinting this circle into their dreams. Tomorrow they will wake to the same fire, the same stories, the same songs. They will carry them forward just as those before carried them. In this way, the fire is more than flame. It is continuity, memory, alive in light. But the fire is also fragile. I see how carefully it is tended. A man rises to add wood, placing it gently so the flames grow stronger. Another shifts the logs, ensuring the embers breathe. When the fire dies, fear returns. I remember nights when the fire faltered, when the cold pressed in, when the shadows thickened, and eyes gleamed from the darkness. The world feels different without fire, larger, more dangerous, less forgiving. Its absence is a reminder of how much depends on its presence. I lie back, staring into the sky. Beyond the circle of fire, the night is endless. The stars burn faintly, scattered like dust across the black. The moon rises pale and watchful, casting its light on the land. Yet even with moon and stars, the darkness is deep, pressing. Only fire creates a place where the darkness cannot reach, a circle where life can unfold without fear. I think of how the first people must have felt, the first who held fire in their hands. The awe, the fear, the wonder. To hold lightning, to tame the sun, to carry warmth in a world of cold. It must have felt like a miracle, a gift from the earth itself. And in many ways it still does. Each flame I watch is both ordinary and sacred, both tool and spirit, both necessity and symbol. The fire burns low as the night deepens. Voices quiet, bodies settle into rest, the circle softens into silence. Only the crackle of embers remains, and the steady breathing of those who sleep. I remain awake, watching, listening, feeling the presence of the fire. It seems alive, watching in return, guarding us as we dream. And I know that when dawn comes, it will still be here, still burning, still binding us together. The fire is more than survival. It is the heart of humanity, the light in our long night, the memory that endures. And as I close my eyes, I feel its warmth, steady and eternal, carrying me into sleep. The night deepens, and with it, the fire becomes the only sun we know. Its glow spills outward in a trembling circle, reaching only so far before the shadows swallow it whole. Beyond the edge, the forest waits its silence, heavy, its presence unseen, but felt. The people huddle close, their faces warmed by the light, their backs brushed by the cold. Fire marks the boundary between the known and the unknown, between safety and mystery. I sit watching as the flames rise and fall, twisting and bending, never still. The logs crackle, the sparks fly, the embers glow like tiny hearts, each one alive. There is movement in the fire, a restless spirit that mirrors our own. Just as we cannot stay still, neither can the flame. It consumes, transforms, fades, and yet renews with every breath of wood and air. It is never the same flame twice, and yet it is always fire. The elders know this truth. They tell us that fire must be treated with respect, never left untended, never wasted. It is not only ours to command. It is a partner, a force older than us, stronger than us. Some say it came from the sky, a gift of lightning. Others say it was stolen from the sun, a daring act that gave humanity its place in the world. Whatever its origin, all agree without fire, we would still be lost in the cold and dark. As the night wears on, the stories grow quieter, more intimate. A mother hums softly to her child, the melody simple, repeating, soothing. An elder whispers a tale of ancestors who carried embers across great distances, never letting them die, keeping the flame alive through storm and snow. I close my eyes, and I can almost see them walking through endless dark, the glow of fire in their hands, the only light for miles. They walk not only for themselves, but for all who would come after ensuring that the flame never fades. The fire becomes more than a tool in these moments. It becomes memory itself. To watch it is to remember all who have watched before, all who have depended on it, all who have carried it. The flame connects us across time, across distance, across silence. It is the thread that ties the living to the dead, the past to the future. There is fear too. I feel it when the fire flickers low, when the wood burns thin, when the embers dim. The darkness presses closer. Then the sounds of the night louder, the eyes of predators nearer. The people stir restless, glancing at one another, waiting for someone to rise and feed the flames. And when the fire strengthens again, relief sighs through the camp, bodies settle, calm returns. Fire is safety, but safety is fragile. It must be tended, nurtured, never taken for granted. Sometimes the fire escapes. I have seen it leap from control, racing through grass, climbing trees, devouring everything in its path. The people fear this, for it is destruction. A reminder that fire is not tame. It can give, but it can also take. And yet, even in destruction, the forest renews. New shoots push through ash, nourished by what was lost. Fire clears, fire feeds, fire destroys, fire creates. The cycle is endless, like the turning of seasons, like the flow of rivers, like the breath of the earth itself. One night, I walk away from the camp, leaving the circle of firelight behind. Darkness closes around me, vast and heavy. The stars above burn bright, but their light does not reach the ground. My steps are uncertain. My breath quickens, every sound sharp in my ears. I feel small, exposed, fragile. The forest looms unseen, and I know that eyes watch me from the shadows. For a moment, I understand what life was before fire, a life of fear, of constant vigilance, of endless night. Then, in the distance, I see the glow of the campfire, warm and steady, and I walk toward it, relief washing over me. The fire is more than flame. It is home. Back in the circle, I sit again among the people. The flames rise, the shadows dance. The warmth touches my skin. I listen to the crackle, to the murmur of voices, to the steady breathing of those drifting toward sleep. I realize then that the fire is not only a shield against the dark. It is a mirror of ourselves, fragile, dependent, yet enduring, capable of both destruction and creation, always needing care, always giving light. As dawn approaches, the fire burns low, only embers now glowing faintly, pulsing with hidden strength. A figure stirs, rises, and carefully covers them with ash, preserving their heat. When the sun climbs, when the people wake, those embers will be coaxed back into flame, the cycle renewed, the heart still beating. Fire never truly dies. It is carried forward like memory, like song, like life itself. And as I watch the first light of day spill across the horizon, I feel a quiet truth settle in me. We are creatures of fire and shadow, of light and dark. We gather in circles of flame, not only to survive, but to remember, to connect, to belong. Fire is our companion in the long night, our guardian, our storyteller, our symbol. And as long as it burns, so do we. The land has changed. Where once there was only wilderness plains for the herds, forests thick with shadow rivers, cutting their endless paths. Now I see something new. The earth is no longer only taken as it is. It is shaped, guided, persuaded to yield more than it once did. This change is quiet at first, almost invisible, yet its meaning is immense. Humanity has begun to plant. I walk along a clearing where people gather. The soil has been turned, loosened by hands, by sticks, sharpened to points, by stones bound into tools. Seeds are pressed into the ground, grains saved from seasons before, fruits gathered, and dried nuts cracked and scattered. It is not yet farming as I have come to know it, but it is its beginning, the first step of something that will transform the rhythm of life. Children watch their parents, their small hands mimicking the motions. They scatter seeds clumsily, their laughter bright, not yet aware of the weight of what they do. Elders watch carefully, reminding the younger ones to cover the seeds with soil, to mark the rows with stones to guard the place from animals who might wander in. These acts are not yet tradition, not yet ritual, but they are becoming so. Each movement is memory repeated until it becomes knowledge. The village still hunts, still gathers, still follows the old ways. But here in this patch of earth, something is different. Food is not only found, it is created. The people begin to trust that tomorrow may bring not only what the land offers freely, but what they themselves have sown. This trust changes everything. I sit with them by the fire as they speak of these new ways. Some are hopeful. They imagine fields growing heavy with grain, food enough for all a future without hunger. Others are uncertain. They wonder if the seeds will grow, if the earth will answer, if this new way will betray them. For so long, survival has meant moving following taking. To stay, to plant, to wait, this feels like risk, like faith. Days pass and shoots push through the soil. Tiny green leaves, fragile but determined, reaching upward. The people kneel to touch them, to marvel at the life they have called forth. The children cheer, the elders nod in quiet approval. It is as though they have called a spirit from the ground, coaxed it to live with them. And in truth, they have. This is no longer only the wild's gift. It is partnership, a bond between human and earth. The first harvest is small. The plants grow unevenly, some wither, some flourish. Animals steal what they can, storms flatten. What is left, floods carry away soil. Yet still enough remains. Enough to eat, enough to save, enough to plant again. The people learn. They adapt. They begin to shape the earth not as conquerors, but as partners, listening to its needs, adjusting their efforts, trying again. I notice how their shelters change as well. They grow stronger, more permanent. Where once a camp could be left behind, now it is tended with care. Stones are stacked into low walls, roofs woven more tightly. Storage pits dug into the ground to hold the grain. This is no longer only a camp. It is a village in truth, rooted as the plants are rooted. At night, stories reflect this change. No longer only of the hunt, of the chase of the wild animals, but of the seeds, the soil, the rain. A song rises soft and slow about the patience of the earth, about the courage of waiting, about the gift of growth. The children fall asleep to these songs, their dreams filled not with endless wandering, but with fields of green swaying in the wind. And yet, the old ways are not gone. The hunters still leave at dawn, following the deer, the boar, the elk. The gatherers still search for berries, for nuts, for roots. The rivers still provide fish, the forests still offer wood and game. Farming is not yet everything. It is a beginning woven into the old life rather than replacing it. But the balance has shifted. The seed has been planted not only in soil, but in the human heart. As I walk away from the clearing, I look back at the small green shoots swaying gently. They seem fragile, easy to crush, easy to lose. And yet I know they are strong. Stronger than the mammoth, stronger than the lion, stronger even than the glacier. For these shoots will carry humanity forward, will root us in the earth, will change us forever. The world is different now. The first fields have been sown, and nothing will ever be the same. The days lengthen, and with them the rhythm of life changes. No longer do people wake only to follow herds or to wander in search of berries. Now they wake to tend the soil, to water, the plants to guard the fields. The dawn is filled with new sounds, the scrape of wooden hoes against earth, the rustle of stalks brushed by wind, the laughter of children chasing birds away from the seeds. The forest and the river still provide, But now the people have created another source, a field of their own making. I walk among the rows, my feet brushing against the young shoots. They sway gently, their leaves trembling in the breeze. There is something different in this sight, something both fragile and powerful. It is not the wild grass that has always grown here, but a chosen grass guided by human hands. It is not the random gift of the earth, but the fruit of intention, of memory, of care. Each plant is a promise, each sprout a thread that ties the future to the present. In the evenings, the fields glow in the fading light, their green fading into gold. The people gather near them, watching almost reverent. I hear an elder speak softly, telling the children that these plants are like them, small growing, needing protection. Just as the children depend on their parents, the plants depend on the people. And just as the children will one day give back to the village, so too will the plants. It is a lesson of reciprocity, of balance woven into the very act of living. The harvest brings both joy and difficulty. When the plants ripen, their seeds heavy, the people cut them carefully with stone blades, gathering them into baskets. They thresh them with sticks, separating grain from chaff, their movements rhythmic, almost like a dance. The air fills with dust and the smell of earth. Children chase after stray grains, laughing as they collect what falls. At the end of the day, the baskets are full, their weight both a relief and a burden. Food enough to last the season, food enough to plant again. But the harvest is uncertain. Some years the rains come too soon, washing the soil away. Other years, the sky remains dry, the ground cracking, the shoots withering before they ripen. Pests arrive, birds, insects, animals, all drawn to the fields, eager to share in the bounty. The people fight them back, but they cannot win every time. Hunger still comes sharp and unforgiving. And yet, despite the risks, they plant again. Each season they learn. Each season they grow wiser. With the fields come new ways of living. The village no longer moves with the seasons. It stays rooted, bound to the land, to the soil that feeds it. Homes become stronger, larger built, to endure storms, to hold families for generations. Storage pits deepen, lined with stone, sealed with clay to protect the grain. The circle of fire remains, but around it rises a new circle, fields that define the village, mark its boundary, hold its identity. The people are no longer wanderers alone. They are settlers, bound to place as much as to one another. The shift is felt in their stories too. Around the fire the tales change. The animals still walk and speak in the songs, the spirits still roam the forests. But now the earth itself takes a larger role. Stories of the seed are told, how it sleeps in the ground, how it awakens with water, how it stretches toward the sun. The seed becomes a symbol of life itself, of patience, of resilience. The children fall asleep to these stories, their dreams shaped not only by the chase of the hunt, but by the growth of fields. I notice how rituals begin to form around the planting and harvest. Before the seeds are scattered, the people gather, offering food to the earth, singing songs of hope, asking for rain and sun. At harvest, they dance, giving thanks for what has been given, sharing food in celebration. These rituals are not yet religion as I know it, but they are more than habit. They are acknowledgement, recognition, that life is not only in human hands, but in the balance of earth, water, and sky. Animals, too, are drawn closer into this new life. Dogs no longer linger only at the edge, but live within the village, guarding the fields, guiding hunts, sharing meals. Goats and sheep are watched more carefully. Some kept their milk and wool, becoming part of daily life. Slowly, the wild becomes less distant, less separate. The line between what is tamed and what is free shifts, just as the line between wanderer and settler shifts. Humanity is no longer only shaped by the land. Humanity has begun to shape it in return. As I walk through the village at dusk, I see the fire burning the fields stretching beyond the people gathered together. The air hums with voices, with laughter, with the quiet rhythm of work completed, of hope carried forward. I realize then that this is the moment of transformation. It is not sudden, not dramatic, but it is profound. To plant is to believe in tomorrow. To harvest is to trust in continuity. To settle is to choose belonging. I lie down that night with the sound of the wind in the fields, the crackle of fire nearby, the breath of people around me. I close my eyes and I feel the weight of the seed, small but immense, fragile but eternal. It is more than food. It is the root of memory, the root of future, the root of what we will become. The earth has changed, and so have we. From hunters and wanderers, we are becoming growers, keepers, dreamers. And as the fields sway under the stars, I know that the story of humanity has turned a new chapter unfolding in the quiet rustle of leaves in the night. The village is no longer only a cluster of shelters, no longer only a place where families gather around fire. It is something more, something greater than the sum of its parts. The earth around it is marked by fields, by paths worn smooth, with footsteps, by the presence of permanence. The village breathes with its people, its rhythms rising and falling like the tide. When I walk its narrow ways, I see homes standing close together, wallows of woven branches, roofs layered with reeds, stones piled carefully at the base to resist wind and rain. Smoke rises in thin lines from small fires within, carrying the smell of cooked grain, roasted meat, herbs drying in the warmth. The village is alive, a heartbeat in the wilderness. Children run between the homes, their laughter carrying their games, weaving through the paths. They chase each other, leap over stones, hide behind baskets stacked high. Their energy fills the air, bright and constant. The elders sit near the doorways, watching, their eyes soft, their voices steady as they share words of guidance when the play grows too wild. These elders hold memory, shaping not only their children, but the very spirit of the community. In the center of the village stands a larger fire, the gathering place. At night, the people come together, their voices blending, their stories shared. I watch as hunters speak of the chase, as gatherers describe their finds, as those who tend the fields speak of the growth of grain. Each voice matters, each voice adds to the whole. Around this fire, bonds are formed, trust is woven, belonging is strengthened. The village creates a new way of living. No longer does each family exist only for itself. Now there are tasks divided, roles shared. Some rise with the sun to guard the fields, to chase away animals, to watch the weather. Others shape stone into tools, bone into needles, clay into pots. Some tend fires, some carry water, some gather reeds to weave into mats. The work is varied, yet it is connected, each task feeding into the life of the village. Dependence is no longer only on the earth, it is on each other. I notice how time itself feels different here. For the hunter days once moved with the herd, with the unpredictable rhythms of the chase. For the gatherer, time was marked by the ripening of berries, the flowering of plants. But here in the village, time is measured by planting and harvest, by the rising and setting of the sun over the same fields. There is a cycle now, regular, steady binding. It shapes not only labor, but thought, expectation, hope. At night, when the fire burns bright, I listen to the songs. They are different from the songs of wandering, though echoes remain. These songs are slower, steadier rising, like the planted fields themselves. They tell of earth, of water, of community. They speak of roots, of belonging, of patience. The children fall asleep to these melodies, their dreams wrapped in the warmth of continuity. I sit with an elder one evening as he carves a piece of wood. His hands are steady, his face lined with years. He tells me that once long ago people feared to stay in one place. To stop was to invite danger, to risk hunger. But now he says the village is a shield. Together, people are stronger than alone. Together, they can endure what the wild brings. He points to the children running to the fields, swaying to the fire burning, and he smiles. This, he says, is the new way. The village is not without its struggles. I hear the arguments, the disagreements, the clashes of will. Food must be shared, but not all agree on what is fair. Work must be done, but not all give equally. Some want to hunt more, some want to plant more, some fear the risks of change. Voices rise, tensions sharpen, yet the fire in the center remains. Around it, disputes are settled, compromises made, bonds restored. The village holds not because there is no conflict, but because there is a place for resolution. One night, rain falls heavy, drumming on the roofs, soaking the earth. The fire struggles, smoke curling low, but the people gather close anyway. They sing louder to cover the storm, their voices weaving together, rising against the sound of rain. I watch them, and I realize the village is more than shelter, more than food, more than work. It is resilience, the strength of many carried as one. It is the recognition that survival is not only about the body, but about the heart, about belonging. And as dawn breaks, the storm fading, the village stirs again. People step from their homes, water-dripping mud clinging, but their spirits unbroken. They greet one another, share tasks, begin again. The village endures, steady as the fields, bright as the fire, strong as the bonds it creates. The rhythm of village life deepens as the seasons turn. I notice how the patterns settle, how the people move not as scattered individuals, but as a living whole. Morning brings the rising smoke of hearths, the soft hum of work beginning. Evening brings the glow of firelight, the echo of voices carried on the wind. Day after day, the cycle repeats, and with it grows a sense of permanence, of continuity, of being rooted in time as much as in place. I walk past the fields as the sun climbs, and I see how the grain bends under its warmth. Some tend the plants with care, pulling weeds, guiding water, protecting what they have sown. Others prepare food, grind seeds into meal-shaped dough, into flat bread cooked over hot stones. The smell drifts through the air, filling the village with a sense of abundance, of sustenance, created not by chance, but by choice, by effort, by patience. Within the homes I see new forms of craft. Clay shaped into bowls, fired in small pits until they harden. Fibers twisted into rope, woven into mats, shaped into baskets. Stones chipped into sharper blades. Bones polished into needles. Each item carries not only use, but pride, the mark of hands shaping more than survival, shaping expression, identity. The village is no longer only a place of food and fire. It is a place of making, of creating, of leaving behind more than footprints in the earth. As people work, they share. A mother shows her daughter how to weave reeds, her hands guiding smaller fingers. A hunter teaches his son how to shape a spear, how to balance its weight, how to watch the wind. Elders speak as they work, their stories flowing alongside the motions, teaching not only skill, but memory. In these exchanges, the village becomes more than a collection of shelters. It becomes a school of life where each moment carries both labor and lesson. I feel how bonds deepen through these shared acts. When one family gathers water, another prepares firewood. When one struggles with the harvest, others lend hands. It is not perfect. There are still tensions, still moments when voices rise, when disagreements spark. But even in conflict, there is connection. People argue because they are bound, because their lives depend on one another. Alone, the wanderer could walk away. Here in the village, to walk away is to lose belonging. And so people stay. People resolve. People continue. The nights remain the soul of the community. Around the central fire, the people gather, their faces glowing, their shadows stretching long. Songs rise, sometimes slow and gentle, sometimes loud and rhythmic, carrying joy into the dark. Stories weave through the air of ancestors, of animals, of spirits unseen. Children listen, wide-eyed, their imaginations sparked, their sense of identity formed. Each story is not only entertainment, but thread-stitching each child into the fabric of the whole. I see how rituals grow stronger with time. Planting is marked by songs and offerings, harvest by dances and feasts. Birth is celebrated with fire and food, death mourned with quiet circles of remembrance. These rituals are not commanded. They rise naturally, shaped by the needs of the heart, by the desire to honor what is shared. Through them, the village finds rhythm not only in labor, but in spirit. One evening, I sit beside an elder who speaks of belonging. He says that once long ago people walked the earth with no ties, carrying only what they could, taking only what they found. But now, he says, they have roots not only in the soil, but in each other. A child born here grows with more than parents, with more than siblings. They grow with a village. They are not alone. His words sink into me, heavy and gentle, carrying truth as steady as the fire's glow. There are moments of trial, too. Storms sweep across the land, flattening fields, tearing at roofs. Hunger visits when harvests fail, when pests steal too much, when sickness spreads. Fear rises when strangers appear at the edge of the fields, when voices unknown call from beyond the trees. The village trembles at these times, its bonds tested, its fire flickering. Yet again and again it endures. Together the people rebuild. Together they guard. Together they rise from loss. I realize then that the village is not only shelter from nature, it is shelter from loneliness. In the circle of belonging, no one faces hunger or fear alone. Every voice, every hand, every story is part of something greater. This is the gift of the village, greater than food, greater than fire. It is community itself. As dawn comes once more, I watch the people stir, step from their homes, greet one another with quiet words, begin the day again. The fields wait, the fires wait, the work waits. And still there is laughter, there is warmth, there is connection. The village stands rooted as the fields are rooted, enduring as the sun itself. And as I walk among them, I feel a truth settle deep within me. Here, in the first villages, humanity has found more than survival. It has found meaning, belonging, and the strength of many carried as one. The earth is no longer only a place to wander, it has become a home. The sky has always been above us, but in the stillness of the village, its presence feels stronger, more constant. When we wandered, the stars were companions for only a short time before the fire was moved and the path changed. But here in the same place, night after night, the patterns begin to reveal themselves. The same stars rise in the east, the same constellations move across the darkness, the same moon waxes and wanes. The sky is no longer passing. It is part of the rhythm, part of the village itself. I sit at the edge of the fields, the night stretching wide, the air cool and still. Above me, the stars burn with a quiet brilliance. They do not flicker as the fire does, do not fade as quickly. They endure, steady and eternal. I feel their gaze ancient and unblinking, as though they have watched countless lives before mine, and will watch countless after. The people notice too. Children point to the bright clusters, asking their names. Elders trace the shapes with their hands, giving them meaning: hunter, animal, river, fire. The sky becomes a canvas of stories. Around the fire, the tales grow richer. One elder tells of a great bird who carried the sun in its wings, lighting the world each day. Another speaks of a hunter among the stars, forever chasing the beasts he could not catch on earth. A woman points to the moon, saying, "It is the face of a spirit who watches over the fields swelling when the plants grow strong fading when they weaken. These stories are more than explanation. They are comfort ways to weave the vastness of the sky into the closeness of life. I notice how rituals shift as the people look upward. Planting begins when certain stars rise harvest, when others fall. The moon marks cycles of growth of time passing. The sky becomes a guide, a clock greater than any we could make ourselves. To follow it is to align with something larger, something beyond the village, beyond the earth itself. There is awe in this recognition and also humility. One evening, I sit among the people as the fire burns low. An elder raises his voice, speaking not to us, but to the night. He thanks the sky for rain, for sun, for the gift of growth. Others join their voices, soft but steady, a chorus of gratitude rising into the darkness. I feel the air shift heavy with presence, as though the stars themselves lean closer to listen. It is the first prayer I have heard, not only to the earth, but to the heavens. It is not demanded, not commanded, but offered freely, born of wonder. The children too are drawn into these new ways of seeing. They watch the fireflies and are told they are sparks from the stars. They follow the moon's path and are told it is a guardian guiding their steps. They hear the thunder and are told it is the voice of the sky speaking with power. These stories shape their dreams, their fears, their hopes. The world is no longer only soil and water and fire. It is sky and spirit and mystery. In the stillness before dawn, I stand alone watching the horizon. The stars fade slowly one by one as the first light comes. I feel a deep connection between earth and sky, between the soil beneath my feet and the expanse above my head. To live here in this village is not only to belong to the land, but to belong to the universe itself. And in that belonging, a new kind of strength is born, not only survival, not only community, but faith in something greater. As the village grows, so too does the weight of the unseen. What was once only story told by firelight begins to carry ritual form and meaning deeper than the words themselves. The people do not only look at the stars, now they answer them. They shape their days and their seasons by what shines above. It is as though the heavens have become another member of the community, silent but present, watching every breath we take. I notice how carefully the people measure time through the sky. When the moon is thin, a sliver of silver, the fields are sown. When it grows round and full, the people say, it nourishes the seeds in the ground, pulling them upward with its light. When the moon fades again, they wait, watching the shoots for signs of growth. It is no longer only chance. It is rhythm, a dialogue between earth and sky. At night, the constellations draw closer to the people's lives. A cluster of stars becomes a great animal, reminding hunters of the chase. Another becomes a river of light, mirroring the streams below. One is shaped like fire, a constant reminder that flame is both gift and danger. The sky becomes a mirror of the earth, reflecting what we know, giving it back, with mystery added. Children grow up with these shapes etched into their memory. They look upward, and instead of emptiness, they see meaning. The first shrines appear quietly, almost without notice. At the edge of the fields, someone leaves a basket of grain, a gesture to thank the spirits of growth. By the river, someone lays a carved stone smoothed by water, a gift to whatever force keeps the current flowing. Near the fire, an elder places a carved piece of wood, upright, its surface marked with lines and symbols. These acts are small, but they gather weight. Each offering, each mark is not only for the spirit, but for the people themselves. It binds them together. It reassures them that they are not alone in their work, not alone in their struggle. I sit beside one such shrine one morning, a simple pile of stones at the edge of the village. On it rests a bowl filled with seeds sprinkled with ash from the fire. A woman kneels there, whispering words. I cannot hear, Her eyes closed, her hands steady. She stays for a long time, then rises, leaving the seeds behind. Later that day, I see her again, smiling, her children running at her side. Something has changed in her, not in the earth, not in the sky, but within her. Faith has given her a kind of peace, a strength carried from within. The community begins to gather for these rituals. At planting, they sing to the sky, lifting their voices in unison, asking for rain. At harvest, they dance, offering the first basket of grain to the fire before sharing the rest. These moments are filled with joy, with gratitude, but also with reverence. I feel it in the air, a quiet heaviness, a sense that something greater than all of us listens, even if unseen. Children watch with wide eyes, learning not only how to plant and gather, but how to belong to something beyond themselves. They copy the gestures of their parents, pressing their small hands together, bowing their heads. They ask questions. Who lives in the sky? Where do the stars go in the day? Why does the thunder roar? And the elders answer not with certainty, but with story. Story becomes truth, and truth becomes tradition. At times fear mingles with faith. A storm comes tearing through the fields, flattening the grain. The people gather around the fire, their voices raised not in song, but in pleading. They beg the sky to calm, to spare them, to protect their homes. When the storm passes, relief floods through them. They say their prayers were heard. The belief strengthens. The bond between earth, sky, and humanity tightens. I see, too, how the unseen can divide as well as unite. When crops fail, some whisper that an offering was not enough, that someone has angered the spirits. When sickness spreads, some wonder if the sky has turned against them. Blame rises voices, sharpened fear deepens. Yet even then, they return to the fire, to the rituals, to the songs. It is the only way they know to bring balance back, to calm what they cannot control. As the years pass, the rituals grow more elaborate. Stones are arranged in circles, marking the path of the sun at dawn and dusk. Fires are lit on certain nights when the moon is high, when the stars align in ways the elders say are powerful. Dances, lengthened songs repeat through the night. Offerings grow larger. Faith is no longer only whispers and gestures. It is woven into the very structure of the village, into the way people live and die. One evening, as the fire burns low, I watch the faces of the people turned upward. The stars shine brightly, a scatter of endless light across the sky. Their voices rise in unison, slow and steady, carrying gratitude, carrying hope. In their eyes I see reflection not only of firelight, but of the stars themselves. They belong not only to the earth, not only to each other, but to the sky. And in that belonging, I feel the beginning of something vast, something that will grow into temples, into myths, into beliefs carried through countless generations. It begins here in the simple village, with seeds planted in the soil and prayers lifted to the sky. The earth beneath our feet has always given us stone, wood, water, and fire. For so long, these were enough. With stone we cut with wood, we built with water, we drank with fire, we survived. But now I watch as people begin to uncover something hidden deeper, something harder, something that gleams when struck against the light. They find metal, and with it, the rhythm of life shifts again. At first, it is small, shiny pieces of copper discovered by rivers soft enough to shape with stone hammers. The people pick them up, curious, holding them close to the fire to see them glow. They do not crumble like stone, do not break like wood. Instead, they bend, they shine, they transform. I watch as one of them places a small piece into the heart of the fire. It melts slowly, a glowing liquid shimmering like sunlight in a bowl. There is awe in their eyes. The earth has given them something new, something alive in its own way. The first tools are simple. A lump hammered flat becomes an ornament, a symbol of beauty. A thin piece is shaped into a hook, useful for fishing. Slowly, the people learn that, with enough heat and patience, metal can be molded, reshaped, strengthened. Fire once only for warmth and cooking now becomes a forge. The air fills with the sound of hammer on stone, the hiss of glowing copper cooling in water. The village hums with this new rhythm, sharp and bright. Children gather to watch the smiths work, their faces lit by fire, their eyes wide at the transformation. To them, it must seem like magic, this act of taking stone from the earth and turning it into something shining, useful, enduring. The elders nod in approval, yet also with caution. They know that what is powerful is also dangerous. The heat is intense, the process demanding. Still, the people cannot resist. They are drawn forward, compelled to learn. The first blades appear, small, sharp, shimmering in the firelight. They cut more cleanly than stone, pierce more deeply. With them, hunters bring down game. More easily, gatherers cut reeds and fibers with greater speed. Work becomes lighter, faster, more efficient. The people marvel, but also begin to depend. The old stone tools are not abandoned, but they begin to fade, replaced slowly by these shining creations. I see how pride grows with each new object. A bracelet hammered from copper gleams on a woman's arm, a mark not only of beauty, but of skill. A man carries a blade, showing it to others, its edge sharper than anything before. These objects are more than tools now. They are symbols of knowledge, of status, of power. To hold metal is to hold something rare, something precious. But copper is soft, too soft. Its edge dulls, its shape bends. The people experiment, mixing it with other stones, melting, shaping, testing. One day they discover bronze, a blend stronger, harder, more lasting. The first time I see a bronze blade, I feel the air shift. It is not only sharper than stone, it is something new, something born of human hands and earth together. The people cheer, their voices ringing with triumph. They have stepped into a new age. The village changes with this discovery. Work grows faster, buildings, stronger, fields better tended. Bronze plows cut deeper into the soil, yielding more food. Bronze axes fell trees with fewer strikes, shaping wood for homes, for fires, for structures larger than before. Bronze spears and arrows make hunting more effective and also more dangerous. The people carry them not only for animals now, but for protection against others. I notice how the fire itself becomes central in new ways. Once a place of warmth and gathering, it is now also a place of transformation. The smith's fire burns hotter, brighter, demanding constant care. Bellows are made, skins filled with air, and pressed to feed the flame. The sound is deep, steady, like the breath of the earth itself. Sparks rise, metal glows, shapes emerge. Watching it is like watching creation itself, the raw elements of the world reshaped by human will. But with this power comes change in spirit too. I hear whispers at night around the fire. Some say metal holds a spirit of its own, that when taken from the earth, it must be honored, for it carries strength and danger alike. Offerings are left by the forges, grains, meat, sometimes even drops of blood given to the flame, to the earth, to the unseen forces that allow such work. Metal is not only tool, it is sacred. As I walk through the village, I see how it gleams now in ways it never did before. A glint of bronze at a belt, a shimmer of copper at a wrist, the flash of a blade in the sun. These are small details, but they mark a transformation larger than any before. Humanity has not only taken from the earth, it has learned to change what it takes to create something new, something stronger. And in that act, humanity itself has changed. I realize that with metal, the path forward will be different. The earth has given us fire, and we have made it a forge. The earth has given us stone, and we have made it blade and ornament alike. What else lies hidden beneath, waiting to be uncovered, waiting to be transformed? The question lingers, as sharp as the edge of a bronze blade, as heavy as the weight of the first hammer. And in the silence of the night, as the forge cools and the fire dims, I feel the truth settle deep within me. We are no longer only creatures of soil, wood, and stone. We are now shapers of earth itself, and that will change everything. The sound of metal striking stone carries through the village like a heartbeat. It echoes from the forge, steady, insistent, a rhythm that belongs not only to the smith, but to the entire community. I watch as people gather near, drawn by the glow of the fire, by the shower of sparks, by the transformation taking place before their eyes. What was once hidden in the ground emerges shining, reshaped, reborn in human hands. The smith stands at the center of this change. His arms are strong, his movements deliberate, his eyes focused. Each strike of the hammer is a conversation with the earth itself. He knows how to read the color of the metal, how to hear its voice in the ring of each blow. Too soft and it bends, too hard and it cracks. Between these lies the path of strength, and he alone knows how to walk it. The people respect him, for he carries knowledge that seems close to magic. In his fire, the old world of stone and wood gives way to something new. The tools he shapes find their way into every corner of the village. With bronze plows, the farmers cut the soil deeper, richer harvests rising from the earth. With bronze axes, the woodcutters shape timber for stronger homes, for larger fires, for structures that rise higher than before. With bronze knives, food is prepared more easily, hides are cut more cleanly. Tasks once long and difficult now pass quickly. Life changes in small ways day by day until the whole rhythm of living feels different. But the weapons are what catch the eye most. Spears with gleaming tips, arrows with sharp bronze heads, blades that glint in the sun. They are beautiful and dangerous, admired and feared. Hunters carry them with pride, their hunts more successful than ever before. Yet I sense a shift in the air. These weapons are not only for animals, they are for people too. The village has grown, its fields wider, its homes more numerous. And beyond the fields, there are other villages, other people who look upon these same lands with hungry eyes. Conflict becomes a shadow that lingers at the edge of the firelight. I hear whispers of raids, of fields taken, of tools stolen, of lives lost. The same metal that feeds the people, that strengthens the village, also sharpens the lines between friend and stranger. A spear carried in defense can be carried in attack. A blade meant for the hunt can pierce human flesh. I feel the weight of this truth in the silence of the night when the fire burns low and the air is heavy with unspoken fears. The smith knows this too. I watch him late one evening, his face lit by the red glow of the forge. He pauses between strikes, staring at the blade in his hand. His eyes are heavy, his breath slow. He shapes it anyway because he must, because the village depends on it. Yet I sense the burden he carries. To create something that can protect is also to create something that can destroy. This is the dual edge of metal, sharper than any blade. Alongside this tension, reverence for metal deepens. The forge becomes a sacred place. Offerings are left at its edge, grains, meat, sometimes even carved stones, given to the fire before the work begins. The people believe the earth must be honored for yielding its hidden gifts. The smith himself is treated with respect, sometimes even with fear, for his hands channel powers greater than those of ordinary life. The boundary between craft and ritual blurs. To shape metal is not only labor, it is ceremony. Children are drawn to the forge, though they are kept at a distance from its heat. They watch with wide eyes as the sparks fly, as the metal glows. They whisper among themselves, imagining stories of fire spirits of gods, hidden in the earth of voices trapped within the shining ore. Their fascination is deep, for they sense what even the elders do, that this is a turning point in our story, a step into a future no one can yet see clearly. The world itself seems to respond. With metal tools, fields stretch wider, forests, thin villages grow larger. The landscape changes, shaped more strongly by human hands than ever before. The earth, once something we moved through, now bends beneath our will. It yields more food, more shelter, more power. And yet, I cannot help but wonder what it costs, what balance is being shifted, what weight will fall upon us in return. One night as I sit by the fire, I hold a small bronze blade in my hand. Its edge glints in the light, its surface smooth, its weight firm. It feels alive, as though it carries within it the strength of the earth, the heat of fire, the will of the smith. I think of how far we have come, from stone, chipped crudely into tools, to wood, bent into bows, to fire, warming us against the night. And now, this metal, shining sharp, enduring. Each step has carried us farther from the wild, farther into a world we create with our own hands. The people celebrate these changes, and rightly so. Their lives are stronger, safer, more abundant. Yet beneath the joy lies unease, a quiet awareness that we are walking a path both bright and dangerous. For in the glow of the forge I see not only the promise of life made easier, but the shadow of conflict sharpened. Still, there is no turning back. The metal is in our hands now, and with it, the power to shape the future in ways we could never have imagined before. We are no longer only creatures of earth and sky, of soil and fire. We are makers, shapers, wielders of hidden gifts, drawn from the depths of the world. And in that truth, I feel the weight of what is to come. As the night deepens, the forge cools, and the fire dims, I close my eyes and let the silence surround me. The hammer's echo lingers in my ears, a rhythm that feels like destiny itself. The earth has spoken through metal, and humanity has answered. The village was once the center of life. Small circles of firelight fields, stretching outward, people bound together by soil, song, and memory. But now I see something larger, something rising from the earth, like a vision too vast to have been imagined before. Villages join, paths converge, walls rise. What begins as many becomes one, and the first cities take shape. I walk along a path beaten hard by countless footsteps, and it leads me to a place unlike any I have known. At its edge, fields still spread, but beyond them rises something new. Structures of stone and mud brick stacked higher than a single family's shelter walls, so wide that many hands must have worked together to lift them. The sound of hammers, of chisels, of voices fills the air. It is no longer only survival. It is construction, ambition, permanence. The city breathes with thousands of lives. I see markets where food is traded, baskets of grain exchanged for fish pots of oil, swapped for wool. Voices rise and fall, a chorus of bargaining, laughter, and argument. I smell bread baking in clay ovens, spices carried from faraway smoke rising from countless fires. Here, life is not only about taking from the land, it is about sharing, trading, multiplying. Abundance is no longer only for one family or one village. It flows between many, binding them in unseen threads. The streets are narrow, winding between homes pressed close together. Children chase one another through them, their laughter echoing against the walls. Women carry jars of water balanced carefully on their shoulders. Men push carts filled with goods, wheels, creaking oxen straining against their weight. The rhythm of the city is constant, pulsing, unending. Unlike the silence of the wild or the steady beat of the village, this is a heartbeat that never rests. At the center, I find temples rising above the rest, their stones carefully shaped, their walls decorated with carvings. People gather there, bringing offerings, grain oil, small figures molded from clay. They kneel, they sing, they lift their hands to the sky. The gods have grown larger here, more distant, yet also more present. They are no longer only spirits of fields and rivers. They are guardians of cities, rulers of destiny, voices that echo across thousands of lives. I watch as leaders emerge their homes, grander, their words carrying greater weight. They direct labor, organize trade, command warriors. Their power comes not only from strength, but from the belief of the people. To obey them is to keep order, to belong to something greater than oneself. Yet, I sense the fragility too. Power unites, but it also divides. Ambition glimmers in the eyes of those who wish to rise higher. Conflict sharpens in whispers carried through the streets. The city requires more than fields nearby to survive. Caravans arrive laden with goods, stone from quarries far away, metals from mountains, spices from distant lands. Roads stretch outward, rivers carry boats heavy with trade. The city does not stand alone. It feeds on the lifeblood of many lands, pulling them together, weaving them into one body. And in return, it offers what smaller places cannot: safety in numbers, knowledge gathered, culture shared. At night, I climb to the top of a wall and look outward. Fires burn within a sea of flickering light stretching across the streets. The noise softens but never fades. Voices still murmur. Animals still move, work still continues even under stars. The city does not sleep as the village once did. It endures, restless, alive, as though it carries its own spirit larger than the sum of its people. And I realize, as the wind carries the sounds of countless lives to me, that this is more than a settlement, more than a gathering. This is humanity's next form, vast and powerful, filled with promise and shadow alike. The city is a mirror of our ambition, our creativity, our hunger. It will shape us as surely as we shape it. The days in the city pass with a rhythm unlike any I have known before. Dawn breaks and the streets awaken. The cries of merchants rise, first calling out their wares, grain pottery. Cloth tools of bronze gleaming in the early light. Soon after, the noise of animals fills the air, cattle being led to market, goats, bleating donkeys, braying under heavy loads. The smell of baking bread drifts through the streets, mingling with smoke, with sweat, with the dust of countless footsteps. I walk through the market and feel the energy pressing on every side. People argue, bargain, laugh, scold. A farmer places his grain before a potter trading food for vessels. A fisherman holds up his catch, its scales flashing in the sun, exchanging it for cloth, dyed in colors not found nearby. Here, survival is not only about one's own hands. It is about trust, about exchange, about the threads that bind one to many. The market is not only commerce, it is the heartbeat of the city, the place where countless lives touch and intertwine. In the workshops, I see hands shaping the world in new ways. Clay spun on wheels, faster, smoother, forming vessels of perfect balance. Looms weave fibers into cloth, patterned with intricate designs. Bronze is poured into molds, blades sharper, stronger, more plentiful than ever before. Each worker knows their craft. Each craft adds to the strength of the city. Skill is no longer only for survival, but for pride, for beauty, for identity. The city hums with creation, its voice as loud as the forge, as steady as the plow. At the heart of it all stands the temple. Its steps rise high, its walls marked with carvings that tell stories of gods and kings alike. Offerings line its base, smoke rising from fires tended day and night. People climb the steps carrying baskets of grain, jars of oil, figures shaped from clay or metal. They bow, they pray, they give thanks or plead for favor. The gods of the city are vast, their power woven into the very fabric of daily life. To belong to the city is to belong to its gods. I stand in the courtyard of the temple and listen as priests chant their voices, deep, rhythmic echoing against stone. They speak not only to the heavens, but to the people gathered, reminding them of their duties, of their place, of the order that binds them together. Religion here is no longer a whisper at the edge of the fire. It is institution, foundation, law. It gives shape to belief, to power, to life itself. The rulers of the city walk with authority, their robes fine, their voices commanding. They live in homes larger than others, their food richer, their influence vast. They direct labor, command warriors, oversee trade. Their power comes not only from wealth or force, but from the belief that they carry the will of the gods. To follow them is to preserve order, to defy them is to risk chaos. And yet, I see how fragile it is, for power always draws ambition. In shadows, others whisper, others scheme, others hunger for the same authority. Warriors train within the city walls, their weapons gleaming, their movements sharp. They stand guard at the gates. They march along the walls. They ride out into the fields beyond. Their presence is both comfort and threat. They protect the city, but they also remind everyone of the price of defiance. The same bronze that cuts the soil in the fields now shines at the tips of spears, the edges of swords. The city is a place of abundance, but also of danger, for where many gather, conflict follows. At night, when the sun sinks and shadows stretch, the city does not fall silent. Fires burn in every street, torches flicker along walls, voices continue. Music drifts from courtyards, drums beating, flutes singing. Dancers move in circles, their shadows leaping across stone. Storytellers speak of heroes, of gods, of battles fought and won. The city, unlike the village, does not sleep in full. It dreams awake, restless, unending, alive in every hour. I climb once more to the highest wall and look outward. Beyond the fields, I see the dark shapes of other villages, other lights flickering faintly. The city draws them in, pulls their people, their goods, their strength into its orbit. And yet, I sense the tension too. Not all will join willingly. Some will resist, some will fight, some will rise as rivals. The city is both a promise and a challenge, a gathering of humanity's best, and a seed of its greatest conflicts. As the stars burn overhead, I listen to the murmurs of thousands of lives carried on the wind, each voice small, yet together forming a roar that fills the night. The city is more than stone, more than walls, more than markets and temples. It is humanity multiplied, ambition expanded, destiny shaped on a scale never seen before. And as I stand there watching the fires glow against the dark, I know that this is only the beginning. The first cities have risen, and with them the world has changed. From them will come both greatness and destruction, beauty and struggle. They are our mirror, vast and unflinching, showing us what we are capable of, for better and for worse. The city was once the height of what I thought humanity could build. Its walls towering, its markets crowded, its temples alive with prayer. But now I see something even greater unfolding, something vast enough to stretch beyond the horizon. Cities do not stand alone anymore. They gather, they merge, they conquer. From many rises, one and the first empires are born. I walk along roads longer than any I have known, straight and sure, cutting across valleys and plains. They are built not only for villages or trade, but for armies, for rulers, for messengers carrying words farther than a single voice could ever reach. Along these roads, humanity extends its reach, binding distant lands into one body. What was once separated by rivers and mountains now joins under the same hand, the same banner. The empire is not only stone and soil, it is will. At its heart stands a ruler, his presence immense, his voice carrying the weight of thousands. He is seen not only as man, but as chosen by the gods, his authority reaching into every corner of the land. People bow before him, bring offerings, pledge loyalty. His image is carved into stone, his name sung in chants, his rule etched into memory. To serve him is to serve the order of the world itself. I see palaces rising grander than any home, their walls covered in carvings, their halls echoing with voices of counsel, of command. Guards stand at every entrance, their spears gleaming, their eyes unyielding. Within, the ruler sits on a throne elevated above all others, the symbol of power made stone and flesh. Around him gather advisors, scribes, generals, priests. Decisions here ripple outward, touching farmers in distant fields, traders on distant roads, soldiers at the edges of the empire. The scale of life shifts. Fields are no longer sown only for a family or even a village. They feed armies, supply cities, sustain rulers. Grain flows along roads, filling storehouses larger than temples. Soldiers march in lines that stretch farther than the eye can see, their shields gleaming, their steps heavy on the earth. Armies protect, but they also conquer. Lands once free are brought into the fold, their people compelled to obey, their voices added to the chorus of the empire. I walk through one of these conquered lands. The people there speak a different tongue, sing different songs, honor different gods, and yet they are now bound to the empire, their fields tax their goods, taken their youth trained as soldiers. Some accept this with quiet resignation, seeing in it safety, order, stability. Others resist, whispering in secret, dreaming of freedom. The empire unites, but it also suppresses. It carries both light and shadow. Temples grow larger, rising higher than before, their tops reaching toward the sky. Within them, priests chant not only for the gods of one city, but for gods who now rule across vast lands. Rituals become grand spectacles attended by thousands, filled with music, with sacrifice, with awe. Religion itself becomes empire, its power bound tightly to the throne. To question one is to question both, and so faith becomes not only belief, but law. I notice how memory is carved deeper in this age. Stone pillars rise with inscriptions, walls covered with symbols, clay tablets pressed with lines. History itself begins to take shape, recorded not only in story, but in writing, etched to endure. Deeds of kings, victories of armies, prayers to gods, all captured, preserved, carried forward. Humanity begins to speak not only through voice, but through time. At night, I stand on the walls of a capital city and gaze outward. Fires burn along the horizon, not only from villages, but from garrisons, from caravans, from armies on the march. The land is no longer a collection of separate lives. It is one vast organism, pulsing, restless, enduring. The empire stretches farther than the eye can see, farther than the mind can easily grasp. And as I watch the stars above, I realize how small even this vastness is against the infinite sky. The rulers dream of immortality, of their names lasting forever, of their cities enduring beyond the ages. And in truth, some will. Yet even here I sense the fragility, the weight of ambition pressing heavy. Empires rise, but they too will fall. Still, for now, they stand as monuments to what humanity can build when its hunger and vision know no limit. The empire does not sleep. Even as night covers the land, roads remain alive with movement. Torches flicker in long lines as caravans travel, carrying grain, cloth, metals, and stories from one end of the realm to the other. Messengers ride swiftly, their horses' hooves echoing on stone, bearing the words of rulers farther than any voice could reach. Armies march beneath the stars, their discipline unbroken, their presence a constant reminder of power. The empire breathes in unison, its pulse steady, vast, and heavy. I stand in the marketplace of the capital, where goods from distant lands gather. Spices with scents I have never known before, vibrant cloths dyed with colors that shimmer in the sun, stones carved with symbols, foreign yet mesmerizing. All of it flows here, drawn by the gravity of empire. Traders speak in many tongues, their voices overlapping, bargaining, laughing, sometimes shouting. Yet even in their differences, they are bound by the order of this place, by the unseen hand that unites them. The people of the empire live many lives. Farmers still bend to the soil, their hands steady in the rhythm of planting and harvest. Artisans still shape clay, carve stone, forge metal. But now they work not only for themselves, not only for their villages, but for something larger. Their labor feeds armies, their creations fill palaces, their offerings sustain temples. Each life is a thread in a vast tapestry woven together to form the image of empire. Power here is immense yet fragile. I see it in the ruler's palace, where decisions are made with voices calm but weighted. Advisors argue in hushed tones, scribes scratch lines onto clay, generals lean over maps marked with rivers, mountains, and walls. Each choice reaches far beyond the room, touching thousands of lives. Yet I sense the tension too. Ambition pressing, fear lurking, rivals waiting. Empire is strong, but it is also brittle, stretched thin across distance. Reliant on loyalty that can falter, on strength that must be proven again and again. Religion grows in parallel with power. The temples are filled with chants, with smoke, with sacrifice. The gods of the empire are vast now, their stories carved into stone, their images towering above worshippers. Priests speak with authority, their words binding faith to law, their presence as commanding as soldiers at the gates. I watch as people bow, offering their harvest, their prayers, their hope. Faith is no longer only comfort, it is order. Rule the structure that binds the empire as much as armies or roads. In quiet corners, I see how culture flourishes too. Poets recite verses that echo across courtyards. Musicians pluck strings and blow flutes that carry melodies through the streets. Painters and sculptors leave their marks in color and form. Knowledge deepens, recorded now, not only in memory, but in writing lines pressed into clay, carved into stone ink, brushed onto scrolls. The empire speaks across generations, preserving voices long after their owners are gone. This is the closest to immortality humanity has yet found. But shadows remain. I hear the murmurs of those conquered, their voices quieter, their songs sung in secret. Not all are content under empire's weight. Some dream of freedom, of the days before taxes, before soldiers, before gods and rulers not their own. The same roads that carry goods also carry rebellion. The same armies that protect also oppress. The empire unites, but it does not erase the longing of those it has absorbed. At the edges of the empire, where walls meet wilderness, I stand with soldiers who guard the frontier. They look outward at lands not yet taken, at people not yet bound. Their faces are stern, their weapons sharp, their eyes restless. For them, the empire is not only home, but mission, a force that must expand or risk decline. Ambition drives them as surely as fear holds them. They know what lies behind them, vast and mighty, but also fragile if left unguarded. They march forward because they believe they must. One night, I climb to the roof of the palace. Below me, the capital sprawls, its fires flickering, its voices rising even in the darkness. Beyond it stretch roads like veins, fields like oceans, rivers like threads binding distant lands. I think of the ruler who dreams of his name carved forever into stone, who believes his power eternal. I think of the soldiers who march into lands unknown, of the farmers who bend to soil, of the artisans whose hands never still, of the priests whose chants never fade. All are part of this vast living body, the Empire. And yet, as I lift my eyes to the stars, I know the truth. Nothing is eternal. Not villages, not cities, not empires. They rise, they burn bright, they dream of immortality, and then they fade. But in their rise, they leave behind memory structure knowledge and stories that shape all who follow. The empire may not last forever, but its echo will. Its dream of eternity, though fragile, will live on in the stones it carved, in the words it wrote, in the songs it sang. The empire is humanity reaching as far as it can, binding thousands into one, daring to believe in forever. It is greatness and shadow intertwined. And as I stand there in the night, I feel both awe and sorrow, for in every dream of immortality we see the certainty of eventual loss. Yet still humanity dreams, and perhaps that is its greatest strength of all. The road has been long. From the first fire in the dark caves to the vast walls of empires, I have walked with humanity through its many forms, its many lives. Each step forward has carried both promise and shadow, each discovery both gift and burden. Now, as I stand at the edge of this journey, I look back and I listen to the echoes that remain, to the lessons carried in stone, in soil, in memory. The earth still holds the marks of all that has passed. In the valleys, I see the outlines of old villages, circles where fires once burned, now silent but not forgotten. In the mountains, I see quarries where stone was pulled for cities, the scars of labor etched into the land. Along rivers, I find shards of pottery, fragments of tools, pieces of lives once lived. These remnants speak softly, but their voices endure. They tell me that nothing is ever truly lost. What we build, what we shape, leaves traces that last beyond us. I remember the first shelters, fragile against the wind, yet filled with warmth. I remember the first seeds pressed into soil, the first shoots rising, the first harvest shared with laughter and fear alike. I remember the forge glowing bright, reshaping the earth's hidden gifts into blades and ornaments. I remember the temples rising, their stones heavy with faith and ambition, their voices lifted to the heavens. Each memory is not only a story of survival, but of becoming, of transformation. The people themselves carry these lessons, though they may not see it. A child running through the streets of a city knows only the present, yet his laughter echoes the same joy that once rang out in the fields of the first farmers, in the clearings of the first hunters. An elder offering grain at a temple knows only her ritual, yet her gesture carries the same gratitude that once whispered by a fire in the wild. We change, and yet we remain the same. As I walk among the ruins of a fallen city, I feel both sorrow and wonder. The walls are broken, the streets empty. The once grand temples crumbled into dust. Birds nest where rulers once sat. Grass pushes through cracks in stone. Yet even here, silence is not emptiness. The stones remember. The carvings, though weathered, still speak. The roads, though broken, still point the way. Humanity's voice lingers even when its body has gone. I sit on a fallen column, the sun setting beyond it, and I think of the dream of immortality. Every empire believed it would last forever. Every ruler carved his name into stone as if time itself could be held. Yet all have fallen, all have faded, their dreams dissolved into the dust. And yet, in another way they endure. Not in the way they imagined, but in the lessons they left, in the structures others built upon, in the whispers of their names carried across time. The lesson is not that we fail, but that we continue. Each fall is followed by a rise, each silence by a new song. Humanity does not stop. It learns, it changes, it remembers. The fire lit in the first dark cave has never gone out. It burns still in every hearth, in every city, in every hand that shapes the world. It may flicker, It may shift, but it endures. I close my eyes and hear the echoes of countless lives. The hunter's footsteps through snow, the farmer's hands pressing seed into soil, the smith's hammer striking glowing metal, the priest's chant rising to the heavens, the ruler's voice commanding armies, the child's laughter beneath the stars, all of them voices in the same song woven together across time. And in that song, I feel the truth: we are more than what we build, more than what we conquer, more than what we believe. We are the memory of all these things carried forward, never ending. The earth remembers us, the sky watches us, and time itself holds our story. As the sun rises once more, I continue my walk across the silent ruins. Stones warmed by dawn carry the weight of centuries, and I trace their edges with my hand, as though touching the memory of those who placed them there. They believed their walls would never fall. Their cities would never crumble, their gods would never fade. Yet here I stand alone among what remains. Still, I do not feel only loss. I feel presence, a quiet reminder that even in endings something endures. The voices of the past still speak through the earth. I hear them in the wind that moves through broken archways, in the call of birds nesting in the hollows of toppled columns, in the rhythm of footsteps as I walk across cracked roads. Time has softened the sharpness of what was, yet it has not erased it. The memory is gentler now, but no less true. I understand then that history is not only about what we build, but about what remains when we are gone. I sit beneath a fragment of carved stone, its markings worn but still visible. The symbols speak of gods and kings, of victories, and offerings of dreams carved into eternity. Their lines are faint, but I know that they mattered once, that they carried hope and fear, pride and devotion. I think of the hands that pressed them, steady in their belief, certain in their purpose. They are gone now, but their voices linger in the shapes they left behind. Humanity is not the same as it once was, yet it carries the same fire. From hunter to farmer, from villager to city dweller, from subject to citizen of empire, the journey has been long and unending. Each change has brought new strength, new challenge, new shadow. And yet always the spark endures, the desire to survive, to belong, to create, to remember. That is the thread that ties every age together, the fire that never dies. As I walk farther, I find the river flowing as it always has. Its waters have carried hunters, farmers, traders, armies. It has seen villages rise along its banks, cities tower above it, empires draw strength from it. And yet, it flows on indifferent to power, indifferent to ambition, carrying forward what the earth gives. I kneel and touch the water, cool and clear, and I feel the truth of it. We are temporary, but life is not. The river carries us all, even when we are gone. The sky, too, remains unchanged, the same stars that once guided hunters, now guiding travelers across empires. The same moon that once watched over the first farmers still shines above vast cities. The same sun that warmed the first fires still rises and sets steady, eternal. We have changed beneath it, but it has not changed above us. In that constancy lies a lesson: the world does not belong to us alone, and yet for a brief moment it holds us. I gather with the memory of countless fires in my mind. I see again the first sparks struck from stone, the first flames that gave warmth against the night. I see the fire carried across fields and forests, through villages and cities, through temples and empires, always burning, always changing, always ours. I realize then that humanity itself is a fire, fragile, flickering, yet capable of lighting the darkness, of leaving behind warmth and memory even after the flame is gone. And so I sit one last time listening. I hear the echoes of all who came before, the laughter of children chasing each other in a clearing, songs of farmers at harvest, the steady rhythm of hammers on bronze, the chants of priests beneath temple walls, the cries of rulers commanding armies, the whispers of rebels dreaming of freedom. All of it is one voice, one song carried through time. The lesson is clear: we are not eternal, but what we create, what we remember, what we pass forward, these things endure. Our lives are short, but our echoes stretch farther than we know. The earth remembers us even when we forget ourselves. The sky holds our stories even when our voices fade. Time carries us forward, weaving us into a story larger than any single life, larger even than any empire. As the day ends, I rise and take one last look at the ruins glowing in the light of sunset. They are broken, but they are beautiful, not for what they are now, but for what they remind me of, that we have always dreamed, always built, always believed, even knowing all things end. That is what it means to be human. To walk forward, to carry the fire, to leave behind echoes for those who will follow. And so I whisper into the quiet, as if to those who walked before me, thank you. Thank you for the fire, for the seed, for the stone, for the words, for the dreams. Thank you for the journey that has brought us here. And to those who will come after, I whisper, too, remember. Remember not only what we built, but why we built it. Remember the fire, and carry it forward. The night falls, the stars return, and I feel peace settle within me. Humanity's story is not finished. It never will be. It flows onward like the river burns onward, like the flame rises onward like the sun. And though I cannot see where it will go, I know this: its echoes will never fade. And so the journey draws to a gentle close. From the silence of the first stones, to the voices of empires, from the flicker of the first fire, to the endless glow of stars above, I have walked beside humanity through its long winding path. The earth has held us, carried us, witnessed us. We have left our marks upon it, and it has left its mark upon us. I feel a stillness now, as though the story itself pauses to breathe. The lessons of the past are not heavy, not burdens, but quiet companions, reminders that, though our lives are brief, what we create, what we love, what we remember, will linger beyond us. The fire lit in the caves has not gone out. The rivers still flow, the sky still watches, and humanity still dreams. We are not eternal, but our echoes are. And perhaps that is enough. Perhaps that is what gives meaning to the endless march of time, that in each life, in each step, something remains carried forward into the song of tomorrow. So I leave you here at the edge of night, with the quiet comfort of knowing that we are part of something vast, something enduring. Close your eyes if you wish. Let the echoes of the past settle around you like a gentle tide. Let the weight of time be not a burden, but a lullaby. Thank you truly for walking with me through this story. If you have found peace in these words, if you have felt the touch of history's echoes, I invite you to stay with us on this journey. Like, subscribe, and return for more stories beneath the quiet sky. Until then, I wish you calm, I wish you rest, I wish you peace in your life. May the fire burn gently, may the rivers flow steady, may the stars guide you home. Good night, and thank you for being here.